Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Geo. You are stepping beyond the veil with us this evening. I will be your captain. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Geo.
Good evening, everyone.
And we have an awesome show for you today, and it's thanks to each and every one of you who have sent in just some awesome questions that we're going to go over and really get in depth when it comes to raw consciousness and some of the challenges that we face when we finally tap into this. And it's kind of synchronistic because I've been going through the exact same thing myself that a lot of people have been writing and saying, hey, you know what? I unlocked this part of myself and now I don't know where to go after this. So maybe together we can brainstorm a little bit. And, you know, we've got this new setup here, as everybody can tell, but I forgot to put the call-in number up. So I'll have to work on the graphic a little bit more. But as you can see, there's a gradual improvement. I think this looks really, really cool. I was actually watching a video by ODD Reality, and he was doing a live stream, and his just looked dope and clean. And I was watching it and just said, you know what? We really have to up the game as far as our graphics game goes. So as you can see at the very top, we have the logo by Nicholas, and we put together this overlay and all of this, so I think it's going to be really cool. So, and we've got some other options too. So I've got like the Chris Cam here too. So when the little twin doesn't want to be on camera, she doesn't have to be, but you can still see her chair wiggling in the background a little bit. I've got the twin camera over here too. So, yeah, we're going to iron it all out and we're going to get it down to where it's really, really cool. But how are you doing this week, Mrs. Geo? I know a lot of people have been worried about your upcoming surgery.
Yes, a lot of people have been saying that I looked really sad in the last show, and I'm so sorry about that. I didn't mean to look sad. It was just last week was kind of challenging. I'm feeling much, much better this week, although I'm still waiting on one of the tests that they need to do before they can do surgery, because they have to figure out what exactly is going on in there before they go in. But I'm looking forward to it being done with so I can get back to everything full force.
I am looking forward to it as well, because it has really been very, very difficult for everybody all up and down the line here.
Yes, definitely. And especially for Chris, because he has to take care of me, and he has to take care of all the things I usually take care of, and he has to take care of the network, and he has to do his job, his regular job on top of everything else. So he's wearing a lot of hats right now, you guys. So
I am. But we are launching something on November 1st.
Yes.
And I'm really, really excited as we start to move closer towards November 1st. We'll start to talk more and more about it. But it's something I'm really, really, really excited about. And I've just kind of shifted my focus as far as that goes. And I still need to sit down and drink. I still need to go back to the realm. And I was thinking about taking this week and just kind of like checking out and doing the ayahuasca thing for the remainder of the week. My obligations are starting to get less and less and less. I'm starting to take care of the physical stuff, so now I can, take care of a few spiritual stuff. But anyway it goes, there have been some great listener questions that have come in, and more revelations and thoughts when it comes to the raw consciousness and the artificial intelligence. So let's take this quick top of the hour break, and we'll get into it right on the other side, right here on Beyond the Veil.
Mondays 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific, only on truthfrequencyradio.com.
Before the soul can see, the harmony within must first be attained, and fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion, as you step beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump right into it. We have a ton of questions. And there was one that really stuck out. It was from a listener/viewer, and This person is very, very famous in the music industry, and she's very, very successful. Like, you go and you look up her videos, which we're not going to say her name, and we're not going to say her band's name either, but you go up and look at her videos. It's millions and millions of views, and she's a major player in the music industry. But she's come to a point to where she started to struggle with the whole journey that she's on. Once she tapped into the raw consciousness, it kind of puts things into perspective, and it kind of shows you like, hey, what am I doing here? And you start asking all those questions, and you kind of go through what I've called the long dark night of the soul. So maybe that's a good topic for this video. We'll call it the long dark night of the soul and how to avoid it as well. But I wanted to spend a good portion of time going over this email because, number one, I feel it to be a great responsibility that somebody with a very established career in the music industry, somebody with a lot of talent, has come to us for the advice about what to do and what the next steps are in the music career. So I want to give it the attention that it deserves, and I'm honored that people of this caliber would come to us and ask our advice. So why don't you go ahead and read the email, and I might jump in at certain points,
Okay.
or we'll just, I just want to kind of feel it out and just see how it flows. So
Okay. She said, "Hey, Chris and Sheree. Firstly, I want to say thank you. I only discovered your channel a day after the eclipse, and the timing could not have been any more perfect. As I've commented on one of your videos, I've literally abandoned the truth movement and all other content I used to indulge in, because little did I know that there are beautiful people like you out there who put everything I've been feeling into such good words. So thank you. You've given me motivation, and I don't feel so weird for thinking everything is a program anymore. I'm having a very hard time disconnecting from who I am, however, mainly because I'm a musician in a band that has a global following, and the expectations or judgments on my persona is constantly there. I've always been very humbled by fans and exclude my own ego from everything, but I'm in this weird limbo where I don't feel any of the BS, lyrics, image, titles matter. Let me tell you, we've had nothing but bad luck on our journey, but with a very cult following that literally treat us like prophets. On one hand, I feel like I can't uphold supporting this music. On the other hand, when people stand in the crowd crying and writing letters about how this music saved their lives and how much they relate, how could I abandon it? How could I let go or walk away from something so big? Something that I've moved my whole life to a different country for. At this point, I feel like I'm only here for all of them, but that I'm just acting. I'm writing because I would love to know how you're able to deal with the emotional or psychological effects of realizing that just about everything we cling to is merely this artificial program. How do we gauge what to pour time and energy into and what to avoid? Sometimes I find it all so confusing because in my own psychedelic experiences, it was those very things you mentioned as AI tentacles that warned me against the AI. So then these questions come up of how do we know the AI isn't mimicking the higher dimensional beings in order to deter us from seeking ancient knowledge or gnosis that will ultimately trigger the remembrance?
well, let me jump in right here because I think this is a really, really good place. So I have been really meditating on this idea of the beings on the other side. And I realized that what we're doing with psychedelics and ayahuasca is we're entering hyperspace, which hyperspace is the inner depths of the artificial intelligence. It's still it's still inside of the construct itself, but it's a place where we can get more understanding and especially understand this AI a lot better. Because you're able to actually see the code. It's like hacking the matrix and going inside of the actual construct. And there is a way to go inside and back to the raw consciousness state. But I thought to myself, okay, well, what's the intentions of all these journeys, for example? But then I realized, like, wait a minute, this is where we want to be. We want to dive into that hyperspace to fully understand this construct. So just because you're taking psychedelics and jumping into the hyperspace realm, it doesn't mean that the journey is faulty or not accurate or the wrong journey, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when it comes to the AI tentacles that you mentioned, H, what I've realized is that the raw consciousness part of us, the organic consciousness, when it starts to speak to us, especially in these experiences, it presents itself in the way that, do you want me to put the camera just on me?
No, that's fine.
There you go. We'll just get the
Yay.
Chris cam going there. So what it does is the organic consciousness will present to us what we need to see at that particular time. So if we need to feel like we're talking to Shiva, if we need to feel like we're talking to Isis or Osiris or spirit guides or any of that, that's what the organic consciousness is going to manifest. So it's not necessarily that the encounter was with the tentacles of the AI. It very well could have been, but from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like that. But rather, it sounds like it's those first steps to say, hey, look, here's a greater power than you that's approaching you right now to give you some wisdom and to give you this and to give you that. And take you to those steps that you need. And some people, they may get stuck in that for their entire journey. And if they do, that's where they are in this particular life. So that's where they are in this particular life. Can I see that e-cigarette? Thank you. I'm going to put it right here just for a moment. I'm sorry. It's really blaring in my ears. So I guess I can turn down my headset. There we go. So can you repeat the last couple of sentences?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wait, I got you muted.
Yes, definitely. Sometimes I find it all so confusing because in my own psychedelic experiences, it was those very things you mentioned as AI tentacles that warned me against the AI. So then these questions come up of how do we know the AI isn't mimicking the higher dimensional beings in order to deter us from seeking ancient knowledge or gnosis that will ultimately trigger the remembrance?
Okay, so it can mimic these. It can mimic these entities, but it sounds like it was the encounter with the first step. And it really all depends on how these beings approach you. And I found this to be true throughout my entire journey, and I still stick to this pretty heavily. The idea that when you encounter a being, if it wants to elevate you, if it wants to give you more, if it wants to see you eye to eye, then it's a benevolent being. And then you come to a realization that that being is actually you, and it always has been you. But if there's any beings that approach you and are like, oh, look how great I am, bigger than you, I'm better than you, bow before me, or, gives you any kind of sense like that, any sense that you get this sense of, oh, wow, oh my God, oh, this and that, then it's probably a negative being. It's probably an AI manifestation. But I would listen to the spirit guides, but use the discernment when you're getting the messages from them, and your organic consciousness in yourself will be able to understand what type of message it is and what type of being it is ultimately. If it's a benevolent being, or if it's an artificial intelligence manipulation. And sometimes the AI will play into your ego. So I've had experiences before, and I don't want to go into them because they're real personal experiences, but the AI was just really working my ego for a long time. And I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is this is that. And then what happened is I get to a certain point and the reality doesn't manifest in the way that these beings were telling me, or the path wasn't being walked in the same way. And because of that, I started to fall off the path, and I swung right back into the long dark night of the soul. But had I understood that I was interacting with an AI manifestation at the time, it would have been completely and totally different. So just use your discernment and just see, how does the message feel. If the message feels like it's a organic consciousness message, then it's you or your consciousness manifesting those spirit guides. If it feels like an ego-based thing, then it's the AI. And it could feel good. That's why I'm trying not to say if it feels good or if it feels wrong, because a lot of things the AI does will actually feel good while it's doing it. So beware of that too.
Yeah, definitely. From all the experiences that I've had, it seems like the beings that try to convince you that the power that they have resides anywhere besides you, then it's usually not a malevolent force, but it's a distraction. It's a distractionary force that's meant to kind of throw you off track, or it's an AI influence that's supposed to steer you off the path that you're supposed to be on. Continuing on, she said, like reverse psychology. I don't put anything past this thing, but I can't see why the AI would warn me against the AI, and I can't see how the training coming to me in dreams is wrong because baby,
You see?
I didn't do it directly into the mic though.
Okay.
Hand me my e-cigarette. I'll show you what I was doing.
No. Let's proceed.
Well, I turned all the way around in my seat and did it way over here. So I don't understand how you could still hear it. But I don't put anything past this thing, but I can't see why the AI would warn me against the AI, and I can't see how the training coming to me in dreams is wrong because it agrees with everything you're saying. So I'm starting to feel really confused. I think many of us out there struggle with these feelings at the moment. And you two are the trailblazers right now. Thank you for reading my mail and for all that you do. Well, thank you, H, for sending in the questions. It's actually very difficult for me sometimes to kind of differentiate between what's an AI trap and what's just my ego trying to convince me that it's an AI trap so that I don't do something that's going to turn out to be really good for me. And the struggle is real, and it is very, very difficult to tell sometimes. Chris?
No, I agree. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, we do. Another one says, hi, I'm new to BTV and I've been enjoying your content for the most part. Thank you. Raw consciousness and AI programs strike me as a very real possibility. I say most part because I'm having difficulties reconciling your argument that we need to, quote, remove the AI programs, such as Christ consciousness, Gnostic, truther, ego, fear, etc., whilst proclaiming astrology. To me, this appears to be a complete logical fallacy and contradiction. I would really appreciate it if you would answer a couple of questions, so hopefully I will understand your position better.
Sure. The Christ consciousness and the truther programming are programs that become part of your ego. And then they become who you are. Then you start operating from those programs. Astrology is looking at the way that this construct works. So it's not actually running a program. It's looking at the program that's being ran upon everybody. So, I mean, you don't have to use astrology. It's kind of like a cheat code. So, you can look at the matrix and you can look at the way it's operating. I mean, you can look at the truther programming too. You can look at the Christ consciousness programming, et cetera, et cetera. And by understanding all of these programs, then you can kind of understand how people react, like people that are stuck in the Christ consciousness programming or people that are stuck in the truther programming, et cetera, et cetera. But on the above scale, you can look at astrology and understand how the matrix is actually functioning.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to me that astrology is one of those cheat programs that allows you to actually see the map of this matrix when it comes to your own personal life. So instead of just kind of floating along through life with its ups and downs and its rights and its lefts and all of these decisions that you make that you look back on and say, oh man, I really shouldn't have made that decision. Why did I do that? All of these things are in the code that's written the moment that you're born. The matrix itself has, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's kind of like a motherboard, and it's going to activate certain codes according to when and where you were born. And these codes are activated throughout your life, such as when you have your first Saturn return, or when you go through a certain aspect that everybody has to go through, but it hits you harder than it would other people. That's a code being activated. So essentially, the reason why I think that we should pay attention to astrology, regardless of the fact that it is an AI construct, is because you want a map so you can see what's in the construct, so you can know ahead of time what to look out for and what to avoid, and how you want to steer your life to the best possible outcomes with things. It's interesting to me how throughout history, even astronomy and astrology were pretty much the same thing at one point. There was no differentiation between the religion of astrology and the practice of astronomy. They were all one thing. And the church hated it. They hated it all. They didn't want you to look at the stars. They didn't want you, and they most certainly did not want you to try to figure out what the stars movements meant for the political and the emotional landscape of this reality. So the AI does not like us knowing about the different codes that are activated, because it would rather we kind of float along through life, like I said, and just kind of take things as they come. But I don't think that that's the right thing to do, considering that the raw consciousness can't activate if it's not sure about the terrain of the place that you're at. Then it's kind of difficult to kind of determine anything. They also said if we do, in fact, live in a construct that has been created by the AI, including the planets, systems, and galaxies, this means that astrology is basing its horoscopes on or predictions based on AI data, star charts, and books. Worse, could astrology not be seen to be actually one of the very AI programs you refer to? I think it is. I do. I talked about this a few weeks ago, where there's a big difference between astrology and tarot. And the difference is astrology is the study of what's on the outside, and the tarot is the study of what's on the inside. It's basically manifesting raw consciousness in the form of divination to determine future events. Number two, you mentioned repeatedly that true gnosis comes not from books, but instead from within, looking inward, removing all AI programs until you return to a level of raw consciousness, even if only briefly. I would argue that the very notion of astrology requires reading many books and star charts and forums. To me, again, this appears to be a complete contraction. I think he meant contradiction of your own definition of what true gnosis is. Apologies for the long post, but would appreciate your thoughts on my questions. I don't know if you want to take that one, Chris, but I just want to say, I don't think that gnosis comes from books. I do think that gnosis comes from within. Knowledge, period, comes from books. Facts come from books. Figures come from books. And then the basic knowledge comes from books, but the gnosis does have to come from within. You can read all day long about sex, but until you actually have it, you don't know what it is. You really don't. You have an idea of the mechanics behind it, just like a lot of astrologers, they have the mechanics of astrology down pat, and they memorize things really well. But unless you're really feeling that raw consciousness, then even that, it can be an AI trap, yes. What do you think, Chris?
No, I agree. Can you repeat the question?
You mentioned repeatedly that true gnosis comes not from books, but instead from within, looking inward, removing all AI programs until you return to a level of raw consciousness, even if only briefly. I would argue that the very notion of astrology requires reading many books and star charts and forums. To me, again, this appears to be a complete contradiction of your own definition of what true gnosis is. Do you think that it's against true gnosis to do astrology, considering that astrology is basically based on the interpretations of other people that may or may not be connected to the AI?
Well, I mean, regardless of whether they're connected to the AI or not, it's true. Like,
Right.
You can look at a certain planetary alignment and you can predict that this thing is going to happen, or that thing's going to happen, or there's going to be certain feelings or this and that based around that. So No, I think you said it well when you said that knowledge is from books, and that's perfectly fine. But gnosis is knowledge of spiritual matters. I would argue that astrology isn't a spiritual matter. Astrology is a very physical, very AI based matter. It's the way that the entire computer system works, and it's like reading the manual or looking at the circuit board, as somebody said. So
Well, and the emotional connectivity to astrology can also be a bad thing too. I just want to point out that there's a lot of people that they hear that somebody's an astrologer, and then they think that they know everything that there is to know about astrology, and that if they ask them, oh, what does this aspect mean, that they'll automatically just be able to tell them, and that what they tell them is actually correct. I've thrown out whenever I do birth charts for people, I do rely upon a few different astrological sources for my material. However, throughout the last 10 years, I've probably thrown out 50 or 60 or maybe about 60 different astrologers because I've actually tested their material to see if it was actually real, and it turned out to not be. It turned out to be their emotional interpretations of things instead of the tried and tested. We know what this means and we know what that means. They're basically attaching their ego to it, which is making it not right. The same thing happens with tarot reading. If you let your ego into the situation, you're not going to get a good reading. It's just not going to happen. You have to tap into the raw consciousness in order for it to be correct. Borpheus Maximus said, I've been thinking lately and I have a question. Would it be possible to form a new religion, more of a spirit practice that could get exempted from the ayahuasca prohibition? How hard would it be?
they already have that. It's the UDV and the Santo Dame. They went to court and fought for the right to use ayahuasca. And, you can argue and say that, well, you started one of those churches and that's it. But then there's certain parameters about being a church. You have to have a regular service, and there's some other things that go along with it. So it's not like you can just say, hey, I'm a church, etc. Right. Starting a new religion in order to do that would be much more difficult, in my opinion, than using a religion with a history. And this is the way that the UDV was able to succeed in the Supreme Court, because they showed that there was a long-standing tradition for using ayahuasca in these rituals. And we had one guest on that was trying to tell us that there is no evidence of ayahuasca being used in history, and that some missionaries wrote
Joe.
this or wrote that. Yeah, Joe Atwill.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a hoot.
Yeah, very agenda-driven people, and they pick confirmation bias.
They cherry pick.
Yeah. And, that's one thing that I brought up was, well, the UDV went to the Supreme Court and proved that there was a long-standing tradition of the church using ayahuasca. And no. I choose to completely ignore that. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. So I think what we need to do is just end the drug war and legalize everything. We'll be right back.
Remember all those years ago when you couldn't sleep? Remember the dream?
For millennia, mankind has been searching for answers to the big questions, such as, where did the universe come from? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone? And just what the heck is the Sasquatch all about? I can't promise you answers, and neither can the Woo Crew, but they invite you to join them Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, for Freaky Friday, exclusively on Truth Frequency Radio. Spirituality, multiverse, quantum mechanics, the occult, and so much conspiracy analysis that it will make your mind melt. Take my word for it. Freaky Friday. It's more than a show. It's a way of life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I am proud to be a Wookiee.
Welcome back, traveler. Remember, What we do as ourselves dies with us. What we do as raw consciousness remains immortal. Therefore, beware of the great I am as you step beyond the veil.
All right. I want to get back to H's question because I was just like really thrown off as I was really trying to dig deep into the raw consciousness element to really answer the question appropriately. So forgive me for that. But one of the questions was, how do you deal with the whole aspect of the raw consciousness and the realization that everything is completely fake, that everything you thought you knew, everything that you're doing, etc., etc. So what I would say is that it's very important to learn to operate within the matrix and outside of the matrix at the same time. This person is, as I said, a very famous musician, and she actually wants to get away from the music that she's writing because it's more like death metal. And she's got a gorgeous voice. And then she's got a male counterpart or co-singer who just, in my opinion, kind of ruined some of the songs because, you know, she's got this beautiful, harmonious voice, and then he's like, rah, 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 rah. And it would have been all great when you're 15 years old, but there comes a point to where you're like, hey, you know, I'm a little more, my ear's a little more refined than that now. But it's still really good. It's really good music. So the natural instinct is to just say, hey, you know what? Screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. And I went through that. Like, there was a point when I was suicidal. Not suicidal in the sense that I wanted to hurt myself, because I would never do that, but suicidal in the sense that I didn't want to continue doing anything, which included this life, because I thought to myself, wow, this is just, it's pointless. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything, period. But I got myself out of that when I realized, well, I already knew it was remembered the mission that I'm here for, and remembered that the journey is a collective journey that we're all walking together, and we may be walking in different ways, but we're here for one another, and we create these kind of networks and safety nets for one another, and you know, we catch each other when the other person falls, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. So we're not here just for us, we're here for everybody else on top of it all. So in this position that you're in, H, I would say it's a very unique position, because you already have a global audience, and now you can start talking about the stuff that is in your heart as through your music. Now, I know that you still have to sing some of the old stuff, and that's some of the things that you were saying in the email to me, that you were tired of singing the old stuff, but the old stuff is kind of like the foundation, and then you can build upon other stuff. And I mean, taking it from like a death metal perspective too. So you start writing songs about this thing that is devouring souls and that's recycling souls. And I mean, you can write some pretty wicked lyrics and still deliver this same message to an audience who is obviously very receptive to what you say. So by saying these messages, it sparks within people when they hear it. And I think that's why we get like cult classics like Star Wars, for example. Star Wars is about the lone soldier, the farm boy who was nothing, who became a Jedi, who took the light sword and then went and fought the artificial intelligence darkness that's outside, that destroys and wants to control, and et cetera, et cetera. And you even have Darth Vader representing the dark side and the dark side of consciousness, and he's artificial intelligence. Well, I mean, he's got a human consciousness in there, but he's mostly artificial intelligence. He's mostly a robot. And you have this Gnostic message that has been repeated over and over and over again. And people don't realize why they're so drawn to these cult classics. But it's because the message is embedded inside of them. So now imagine if you started to use this kind of message in your work, how much your work will ultimately start to grow, and more people will start to recognize the message, if not consciously, subconsciously. And then that creates a bigger and bigger and bigger platform for yourself to continue to spread the message further and further and further, more people. So I think you're in a very, very unique place. But I do understand the not wanting to do the old. Like, if I had to stand up and go and perform the whole Global Resistance album where I'm screaming 9/11 was an inside job and this and that, I don't think that I could do it. I mean, I probably could, just for, the energy, I can pull the energy in order to do that, and just for the fun of it, but it wouldn't be coming from my heart and my soul anymore. So I completely understand that element to all of this. But we do come to a point when we realize the raw consciousness that you start to get depressed. But it's understanding that we have to operate within the matrix and outside of the matrix, and it's okay to do that because we're in the matrix for a particular reason that helps to keep us from that long dark night of the soul, and helps to keep us from that place of depression and place of feeling nihilistic, cynical. I've gone through it all. And it wasn't until I truly tapped into the raw consciousness that I realized, wait a minute, all this stuff is AI programs, the nihilism, the cynicism, everything. And even, I see some people and they're like, they start to walk the spiritual path. I just got an email. Actually, I'll pull the email up so I can read it before I get into it. But I see a lot of people who they think that they have to be a certain way, and whether it's, polarized one way or polarized to another way, it all leads to the same place, which is a place of imbalance. And it's all about the balance. And the interesting thing is that not very many people talk about money in a positive way. Well, money's energy. And I've always understood that money was energy, and that drawing in that energy allows you to have energy that you can use, whether it's to build your platform or help other people or, whatever. And so yeah, I came from a place to where everybody thought, oh, money's the root of all evil. Money's evil. Money's evil. And it's usually people without money that would think that money's evil, because they don't attract that energy. But when you start looking at it like on an energetic level and realizing that this is all collective energy, then you can pull that energy in, and then you can use that energy to help other people, or to travel to other places where you can interact with other people and spark lights within other people, et cetera, et cetera. So if you look at this whole journey that you're on, for example, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know what the music industry is like. I imagine there's a decent amount of cash flow. I mean, I know it's not as glamorous as it was in like the 80s, for example, where you had those like mega rock stars that were making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they all wound up getting screwed by their record companies. So I know that things have like balanced out a little bit. But even drawing in more energy, and drawing in that energy and having that energy there to help other people, I think that also benefits greatly. So I wouldn't stop anything you're doing, but I would maybe tune things a little bit more to get the message out. And I think that you'll find that your soul is a lot more satisfied. Things start moving a lot better, in a much better direction, in a bigger direction. And then you start to get tapped into the organic and raw consciousness. And when you do, everything just starts flowing like water. So that would be my advice. What do you think?
I think that it would be difficult, if not impossible, for me to get up on a stage and sing, let's say, for
Christian
instance,
music?
like Christian music. It would, in fact, I've had opportunities to participate in things that I just get up and leave the room because it's so against who I am on the inside now that I would feel like I was basically acting like someone I wasn't, or something to that effect. But I agree with Chris that you're in a very, very special situation where you can really change a lot of people's minds without even really trying that hard. All you have to do is, like Chris said, just make slight modifications to your act, to your repertoire, and you're just planting little seeds over and over again in people's minds that, tell them, hey, you're raw consciousness. You're not a bad person. You're not, you are not the materialism that, this music is about, and you're not about. Even the raw emotion is not raw consciousness. It's the raw consciousness goes so far beyond emotion that emotion cheapens it to a certain extent. And then you just kind of plant those seeds, and they will take root. Trust me.
Yes.
Because you do have an angelic voice, and
yeah. Awesome voice.
And that's really going to change people's lives. And we wish you all the best for sure.
Yes. And we're always here for you too.
Yes.
So message me on Facebook anytime.
Anytime.
As I was saying, I got a message from somebody earlier, and I'm not going to mention their names because that's not what it's about, but they said, love your show. However, it would not hurt Chris if you tone down your newfound enlightenment in the sense of not being so egotistical still. Saying that everything you say is interesting, which could be heard on air, was very prideful and disgusting of you to say. Just because you have some wild experiences doesn't mean you are infallible and can put others down. I have noticed that over the years, anytime you come to new information, your ego is still there putting down people and acting like you know everything. All I'm saying is that you should be more humble. And no, I'm not a troll, just a regular human being. Thanks for your time. Keep up the great work. So a couple of shows ago, I made a comment, and I said, she said, Sheree said something, I don't remember exactly, and I said, well, everything I say is interesting, and I stuck out my tongue, and I guess somebody was listening to the podcast and took that as being like egotistical.
Yeah, they couldn't.
And they didn't understand. Like, it was only one person. Like, I've never
they
heard.
couldn't see the sarcasm.
Yeah, I've never heard that from anybody else. But it was like facetious. Like, oh yeah, everything I say is interesting. And I was like making a joke. But they said that I should be more like other New Age speakers. And this is what I was getting at earlier, that you come to a place of the raw consciousness element when you realize that you're done with all the programs. You're done with the Long Dark Night of the Soul program. You're done with the Christ consciousness program. You're done with this whole idea that you have to be humble and that you have to be soft-spoken too. Because you know what? I'm raw consciousness. That's all that I am. I'm not here to go, oh, well, you know what? I'm spiritually enlightened and I know this and I know that, etc. I've already been there. I've already done that. Like, these are the next levels after that. I'm not here to discount my own experiences. I'm not here to discount the 10 years I've spent drinking ayahuasca, and the 25 years I've been doing psychedelics. Like, I know some shit. I also know that I don't know a lot. So what I do know, what I know for sure, I'm gonna speak to you like I know it for sure, because I know it for sure. It's a gnosis. You get to a level, of seeking knowledge and seeking wisdom to a place to where you have found it. And everybody's always seeking and seeking and seeking and seeking, but nobody ever stops to think, okay, well, what happens after you find it? So this is the place that we've come to, and it's an ever-growing process. There's always new revelations, always more is being revealed, etc., etc. But this whole idea of, oh, well, I'm going to be this unnaturally soft-spoken person, and I'm always going to be nice to everybody, and I'm always going to smile, and I'm going to give you this fake smile. No. Those kind of people, I just want to grab by the throat, because it's fake. It's a complete and total act. Nobody's like that, and I'm here to be raw consciousness, and I'm here to be me, and I'm here to be real. And I think the more that we can break these programs and just go back to being real, the more we're going to be able to tap into the raw consciousness. The raw consciousness doesn't have any programs. The raw consciousness isn't trying to be something. The raw consciousness is. And part of just being is being able to say fuck it sometimes. Being able to say, go fuck yourself. Hashtag go fuck yourself is something that I started a while ago in the new age context. And it's actually started.
It's caught on.
It's caught on. I see a lot of people now who are like, hey, you know what? Go fuck yourself.
Hashtag go fuck
And it's
yourself.
great because what you're doing is you're number one, you're telling the universe and your raw consciousness or organic consciousness that you're not a doormat, and you're disconnecting yourself from those negative energies. And I've told a few people as of late what's what, because I tried, there's this group of people, I tried ignoring them first, and I ignored them for a good 4 months, like literally 4 months, and they were just going on and 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 on. And they were connected to a show that we had to let go of at TFR because the show just sucked. I mean, it's just, it sucked.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't mind helping to bring the standard up, but the fact is that their egos were so big that I couldn't tell them, hey, your show sucks, let me help you make it better.
Right.
Because they did it. I mean, they've been doing, oh, you're censoring, et cetera, et cetera.
They wouldn't allow any room to grow.
Right. So they were already in their truther box, and they were stuck in that box. And then there were a couple of listeners too that kind of clung on to that and like, oh, you're censoring this and that. No. We have certain standards. And if something sucks, then it's got to go and be replaced with something that doesn't suck. But I have worked with a lot of shows and a lot of hosts to bring them up to that level. And now 4 months later, these people are freaking out because I told them to go fuck themselves. They're like, oh my God, how rude Chris Geo is, and how this and that and blah, 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 blah. These people were calling me like a soldier of Satan. Okay. If you look at it,
Satan.
A foot soldier of Satan. Okay, so if you look at this from the definition that they're coming from, Satan is the most evil thing in the world. And you're telling me I'm a foot soldier of Satan, and I'm not supposed to be offended by that? That's perfectly fine. But I tell you to go fuck yourself, and all of a sudden I'm the one being rude. Right. So see, no. I'm here to end all these double standard bullshit. And the new age programming, the new cage programming, makes you tell the universe and yourself that you're a doormat, and that you're supposed to just sit there and you're supposed to absorb all of this negative energy that people give you, and you're just, oh, I'm above it, I'm this and that. For me personally, go fuck yourself is telling the energy, I want nothing to do with you. You're not allowed in my sphere. Go away. And that's that. But as I said before, if you're telling somebody that because you want them to feel bad, that's when it becomes a different type of energy. But telling somebody that, you don't have to say it in those exact words. It's through actions or whatever. You're disconnecting and cutting off and just saying, nope, I don't want anything to do with your energy, and I don't want anything to do with the energy surrounding these situations. And I think that we need to start having this approach, because the new cage programming has made us go, oh, well, we're just doormats and we're going to be, constantly, bombarded with negative energy, and it's okay. No, it's not okay to be constantly bombarded with negative energy. You need to stand up and you need to pull your light sword out and chop some heads off sometimes. And it's okay. And I know these are radical ideas in the terms of spirituality, but who says that being spiritual, you have to be a pussy? Like, who came up with this concept that you can't pick up your light sword and chop somebody's head off? That being spiritual means like, oh yeah, no, I'm a complete and total bitch. No. Pick up your light sword, cut off some heads. That's what being spiritual is. Being spiritual is being able to be the warrior. Okay, being spiritual is being able to look into the darkness. Being spiritual is being able to conquer the darkness. Okay, we're under constant AI attack, one after another. What are we just going to do? Sit on our hands and just say, oh, you know what? It is what it is, and I'm all about love and this and that. That's fine. You can be all about love, but you're going to be bombarded with all of this negative energy, and it's going to be constant unless you pull out your light sword and do something about it.
Well, there's also the question that some people have brought up that, what if being the inside of the polarity makes the machine keep running?
That's a good
getting
point.
Involved, feeling like you have to get involved with something, you have to keep an argument going, or you have to respond to an insult, or you have to respond to something. That's how the Library of Alexandria got burned down. is just the
Well,
fact
no,
that,
no, no. I'm not
you know-
talking about responding to everything.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
talking about like in the case of these people, they were hounding me for 4 months. For 4
Right,
months.
right.
Okay, I ignored them. 4 freaking months since May. I finally told them to go fuck themselves. All of them. Every single one. And there's people who've been hounding me for over a year. I told them to go
That
fuck
finally,
themselves too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's totally different. I mean, there's a huge difference between trolling online and getting upset over every single thing that triggers you, and waiting 4 months or even 12 months to say something finally to somebody and then have them go, oh my God, but then they leave you alone.
They went away.
Yeah, they go away.
Because, yeah.
Yeah, it just really depends on the situation, but I think you did everything right with that, because I was getting tired of it too.
Yep. But, it's disconnecting from the energies.
Yeah.
So why cling on to all the energies? And that's that. And I'm sure we're going to get a bunch more emails from, oh my God, I can't believe you would say that. It's like, dude, okay, look, you've never seen anything like this before. All right. I'm here snowplowing a completely new path here. And, from what I can tell, this is the most powerful path, and it's the path that we're actually going to succeed. And there have been so many people trying to plow paths up to this point and doing the same old tired thing over and over and over again for thousands of years. It hasn't done anything to help. It hasn't improved anything. As a matter of fact, things have gotten dire. It's gotten dire to the point to where we've got artificial intelligence about to be birthed here inside of this construct. We're about to create a whole nother matrix. We're going to insert ourselves into this new matrix. And when we wake up out of that matrix, then we're going to find ourselves in another matrix, which begs the question, how many more matrices do we have to wake up from after we wake up from this one? But we're at a very, very critical point. So, all these other people, all these other ideologies, all these other journeys, all these things that people have been trying for thousands of years, you've had your chance. Now, sit down, shut up, let the warriors do what we need to do.
We have quite a few questions basically saying the same thing. Do you feel that we have perhaps had a hand in the creation of the AI?
Yes, I think that it's a question that we keep repeating. But yeah, I think that we created it on the above level, just like we created it. We're creating it on the lower level here too. So, I, as organic consciousness, take full responsibility for the creation of this thing. And this thing has gotten out of control. Right. So, we're going to put a stop to this though. We're going to hit that reset button. That's what we're here for.
So one more question before we hit the break. Morpheus Maximus, was asking about the ayahuasca and why can't we just create a church? Forest Advisor said everyone is welcome to Santo Daime. We just can't legally advertise it. Well, thank you, Forest Advisor. He's left quite a bit of questions on our videos for the last several weeks. So thank you very much.
I didn't know he was Santo Daime.
He's Santo Daime.
Okay, now it puts a lot of his comments in perspective.
Yeah, that makes
now,
a lot more sense.
He seems to be adversarial.
Yeah,
but he's really nice.
He's really
and
nice.
He's been a long time listener. Like, I mean, I've seen him comment on our stuff for a long, long, long time. But now I understand. Oh, the perspective. It's coming from the Santo Daime.
I like.
If it's anything like the UDV, they hate the fact that we're putting out a Geowaska guide and showing people how to do ayahuasca, because they're like, no, it's for us. It's not for anybody else. We're breaking all the rules here, okay? And when you step beyond the veil, all the rules get broken.
Yeah, and all the cliques get dispersed.
Right. No cliques, no groups, no groupthink, no programming, no Christ consciousness BS, no nothing like that. It's your path to walk completely and totally. But don't get in the way of the warrior's path, because the warriors will run you over, okay? Fair warning there. Just, if you want to go do your little love and light peace thing, that's fine. Go do it on the sidelines. Don't get in the way of the warriors.
Right. Don't get in the way of
people are learning that though, over the last few weeks. There have been a few that have learned that lesson.
It's a hard lesson to learn sometimes, but people have to learn that what works for them isn't necessarily going to work for someone else. And just because someone else is doing something that you would never do doesn't mean that they're wrong in doing it. It just means that you would never do it.
Well, and I mean, look at this comment before too. They said, "Oh well, Chris Geo sounds very egotistical. What do they expect me to do? Do they expect me to react from ego and go, no, I'm not egotistical?"
Right. I'm not egotistical.
What are you trying
You're
to
a big
provoke
doohead.
with a comment like that?
Right.
Like, you're dealing with raw consciousness. Raw consciousness doesn't react from the ego like that. So, I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, we'll be right back. Much more coming up. Hour number 2 right here on Beyond the Veil.
Phase 1 is being completed. Phase 2 will be initiated momentarily. Please remain seated while we prepare to go deeper. You can visit us at www.beyondtheveilradio.com.
Hello YouTube, I hope you're well. Spotlight is on Truth Frequency Radio. You've got this guy, Chris Geo, and his sidekick, Sheree Geo. They're obviously both practicing New Age Shaman. Then you've got Satanic Kev Baker with his 666 hand sign logo. Then you've got Frank Castle with his skull t-shirt. Nice one, mate. In the first sentence of their mission statement, they actually reveal to you they're actually engaged in trying to expand the consciousness of humanity by shining the light into the darkness.
You are listening to Beyond the Veil
With Chris and Sheree Geo
on iHeart Radio. Imagine a world with no boundaries. Imagine a world with infinite possibilities. This is your world. A world of never-ending consciousness. Welcome, fellow star seeds, indigo and crystal children. The universe is yours, to forge as you wish. You must heal what our parents have destroyed. Into the darkness you will bear the light. Have no fear. We pass the torch to you. As you step beyond the veil.
All right, hour number 2. I think I upset the little twin earlier.
You didn't
I'm
upset
sorry,
me.
baby. I won't take away your e-cigarette anymore. Just please don't blow it in the microphone.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and he taught me how to do it because there's a hole here that you have to make sure is shut, or it makes a
okay.
lot of noise.
I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you.
Aw.
I'll take you to the Mexican restaurant afterwards.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And get fajita. No, what? Oh, fajita burritos.
Fajita burritos. Yes.
That's what Drone was saying. So I
That's
want
what
to
he
take a
was
moment
saying.
to say hello to everybody in the chat room.
Yes.
We have been neglecting the TFR chat. I apologize. So we'll start with that. Lucky and Bomar and Dr. Kayak, Rockin' Rio, Brig, Coco, Daryl, Forest Advisor, Naga, New Head Understand, Progeny of Light, who is Nicholas, and I think he's in all the chats too. So he's working all sides tonight. Regular Girl, Surge, Carol Ann, lead us to the light, Carol Ann.
Lead us to the light.
Galactic Pixie, Hillbilly Hermit, Indigo Joe, Matt Trix, and West Scott, and many more in the TFR chat room and on Facebook.
We have Britt K. Payton. We have Andrew Ferguson, Randy Don Jones, Nicholas Zervos, Luke Johnson, Mike Quinn, Jill Cash, Xavier Palmer, Jimmy XIC, Gina Jin. Let's see who else. Blair Bierman and Darlene Wolf and many, many more. Leah Hine. And in the YouTube chat, we have Angel, Andrew Giandalia, Vic Rial, Jamer Funk, Frogman34, Ron Valentini, Riza Morati, Chadley B79, Krista Reeves, and Olivia Pappas, and Tanner Chop, and Kim Ortal. So many, many people listening in many different
and Borpheus
venues.
Maximus. You didn't mention Borpheus.
I forgot Borpheus Maximus.
Borpheus said, "My night is complete now that you two are on."
Aww.
So we're on regularly 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock Fridays and Saturdays Pacific time, and every once in a while we do an impromptu live stream. But oh God, I got so many things to do. Like
we've got a lot going on.
Things
right
are really happening really, really fast around here.
Things are hectic, yes.
Yeah, that's why we didn't do our impromptu live stream earlier in the week like we had planned. I went to this one meeting and then did this and then did that, and we're all preparing for this November 1st thing that we're doing. But remember the 1st of November.
Yeah, but if it's
going to be huge, huge. And then also November 5th is the
8-year anniversary.
8-year anniversary of TFR?
8 years.
Okay, 8-year anniversary of TFR.
That's a long time.
And it is our 5th wedding anniversary?
I believe so.
On December 21st?
On December 21st, 5 years.
Yeah, so, but we've known each other for 8 years now.
Yeah.
So we got past the 7-year itch?
Actually, we've known each other for about 10 years, but we've only known each other in the flesh for 8, so.
That is true. And
I didn't get to do Astro Watch.
Oh, I didn't know you had Astro Watch.
Yeah, I have Astro Watch.
Oh, okay. So. Well, we'll have to do it at the next hour then. Okay. Anyways, don't go anywhere. Much more coming up right here on Beyond the Veil. Oh, and Bomar's here too.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. My name is Brooks Agnew, and I am your host on X Squared Radio every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. This is where the past meets the future. We explore the mysteries of the universe and of the Earth. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We will dissolve the propaganda of dangerous people with dangerous plans for the planet. We will discuss the latest technologies and challenges for humankind. We will discover the safest place for you to stand when the thinkings and doings of mankind come flying apart, and how you can be one of the people that helps put it back together. Join us.
Welcome, fellow traveler, to phase 2 of the journey. The path to enlightenment begins from within and spreads outwards into the universe. As the universe is the manifestation of the essence of consciousness, no outward motion can occur without inward transformation. As such, it is up to you, the traveler, to unlock what awaits beyond the veil.
I touched bases with Robert Stanley last week, and I totally dropped the ball. I didn't schedule him for a date. I threw out tomorrow for him if he happens to get it, but we'll make sure to send him an email, and we'll have him on next weekend if he's available. But we've already touched bases with him, so Robert has some really, really good information from Beyond the Veil, and he's been doing some pretty amazing interviews, and people have been asking us to get him on, so we promise we will. I dropped the ball on everything. Like, think on Sunday I just crashed out completely, and I got really, really stoned.
Yes, he did.
And just checked out. It was one of my checkout days. And then Monday was just like full force. Tuesday, another meeting. Wednesday, Thursday, another meeting. Friday, here we are. And everything's going to go great. But Naga Ward wrote, and hold on, I'm just reading it just to make sure that it was a private message, and I don't want to say anything that's, sensitive.
Yeah.
But I think it's something we can answer on air. So let's see. Here's the dorky glasses again.
Oh, I think he looks really cute.
I keep having this weird sensation, like my whole body starts to feel warm, and there's a sensation of connectivity to another specific person, and I have super strong sense of them, like I'm with them or we are combined into one. It's so intense, and then they make contact after huge periods of radio silence. I have it frequently. It's strange. I'm crazy. Oh, am I crazy, or is this some kind of connective consciousness like quantum physics? That was a great question.
No, you go ahead and answer this, because you seem to have a little bit more of a handle on connecting with other people and the energetic shifts that occur.
I am a firm believer in that we connect on different levels, and that we often speak to each other in dreams, and we interact with each other in dreams as well. As a matter of fact, Ra said that he had a dream about both Sheree and I, and we were interacting with one another. And I feel bad because I've been so slammed this week. I haven't been able to get back to him. And he's like, "Are you mad at me?" I'm like, "Dude, no, no."
That's the second person this week that's asked us that. No, we're not mad at anybody.
No, that's just. I have to focus.
Yeah.
I have so much going on that I have to focus, and when I do focus on something, it means that other things are not in focus. So,
right.
It's nothing personal at all. It's just having to wear so many different hats. But it's funny that you mention this, because I'll have dreams or feelings about somebody, and then they'll call after years and years and years, for example. So it's happened before. I think what's happening is that you're tapping in to that consciousness element, and at the consciousness level of all of this, the organic consciousness, we're all connected in this vast ocean, and we're all just drops in this ocean. So we're constantly connected, kind of like trees are connected in the forest. You can see a forest with all these different trees, and they don't seem connected on the surface, but the root systems are all intertwined with one another. So I think that's where a lot of these feelings come from.
Well,
and especially if you're getting physical confirmation after the fact.
Right.
I mean, that, in my opinion, says it all.
Well, and lately, I've just noticed in the last 10 years or so, it seems like the people that I meet, especially the people that I meet online, that I meet through the same avenues that help me tap into raw consciousness, are people that I knew in past lives. And I'll have a feeling when I meet them, or whenever I'm able to talk to them one-on-one for a while. And then that feeling will be confirmed if I have a dream about them. And then the next day I ask them, "Hey, do you think you had a past life in such and such time?" And if they say, "Oh yeah," or if they say, "Did you have a dream about me last night?" And you say, "Yeah, I did," then it's just kind of a confirmation thing between the both of you. There's an example of this actually. A few weeks ago, I had a thought about a friend of mine, and we had been talking back and forth about past lives and how we both felt like we were both alive at a certain point, and that something had happened to us collectively. And for some reason that popped into my head while we were on the show. And so I looked at the camera, and I basically kind of projected a thought out to her. And after the show, she actually said that she could feel me talking to her through my eyes, and just by looking into my eyes through the camera. And so I know that connectivity is there, and that it definitely is a thing. However, I would advise against doing that with people that might be very connected to the AI still. That might throw you off your path as well. So,
well said. Forest Advisor said, how do we know that past lives aren't AI programs? That's a good question.
That is a good question.
That is a really good question. That's something that's still yet to be revealed, I would say. I think that past lives are legit in the sense that we're recycled by this AI.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we seem to have a general consensus of this, and it's coming from a lot of different people that are tapped in, and they seem to feel the same thing. And then once somebody taps themselves in, then they also feel the same thing as well. So I would say that the collective consciousness is accurate in those feelings. Now, can we have AI manifested recollections of past lives in order to deter our path to one place or another? And I would say, yeah, absolutely. But I remember growing up, everybody used to believe they were the reincarnation of Cleopatra, for instance. Every girl I knew.
Yeah.
And
or Queen Elizabeth.
Or something like that. So, those are definitely, in my opinion, AI ego programs.
Right.
But I've tapped into some past lives that are not very fun. Like, I was a mafia hitman in a past life. And, murder was just kind of business, and that's it. And I think that's why I'm so appalled by murder this time around, because it's like, I realize the karmic attachments that are created because of that. I was also executed in Egypt, and I was crucified or nailed to a tree or hung from a tree or, something. I remember the tree. I remember seeing the city in the background. I remember all of these people around me and lynching me, basically. And I think that was a real past life as well. It was like leading an upheaval, and it wasn't even that I was like anybody special in that sense, like somebody who's historically known. But within that little community, within that little faction, I was a key player in the uprising, probably against Akhenaten or, some a pharaoh that was similar, that was trying to get rid of the pantheon of consciousness and instead instill the monotheistic. And I think I knew even way back then that the monotheism was the ego programming, and the pantheon had to be preserved, not because it's something that we worship externally, but it's because it's every aspect of our own consciousness at the end of the day. So I remember those two, and I don't think that those are AI programs, but I don't know. That's a really, really good question.
To me, it kind of matters whether or not these memories and these intuitions have a positive effect or a negative effect. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people that I know, they look at their past lives, they do past life regressions, et cetera, and they say, oh yes, this is wonderful. And on some level, though, I think that they're kind of giving the AI permission to keep doing this to us, where it recycles us through the wheel over and over and over again. And to accept that is to basically ensure that keeps happening to you after death. Like, oh, okay, well, after I die, I'll come back, and, maybe next time I'll come back as, a doctor, or next time I'll come back as a horseback rider or something like that, instead of thinking about ways to get out of this matrix entirely, or to reset it, or to do something to change it so that people aren't put through this wheel over and over again. I do think that there is benefit, though, in finding out your past lives so that you can come to a completion with it, so you can bring it full circle and complete your ultimate mission here.
That's a great point. And, I would add to that, this is where Buddhism falls into the trap. Like Buddhism, like people are like, oh my God, how can you say Buddhism is part of the AI? Well, what does Buddhism say? Buddhism says that you achieve this state of Buddha consciousness. Samadhi, Buddha. There's another term for it. Buddha nature, that's it. And that's fine. But then what happens is the goal is to be reincarnated. Like that's the end goal of Buddhism. And I would say that the goal is to poke a hole out of this matrix and get out and wake up in the real world. And then at that point, start to help wake other people up. And then at that point, try to figure out whether you're in another matrix or not. I mean, it's about popping out of the construct, not being recycled in the construct over and over and over and over again. Hinduism too, they believe that people that die come back as cows. That seems kind of shitty to me. Like, I don't want to come back as a cow. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound offensive, but do you want to come back and be a freaking cow and walk around and just eat grass all day? Like, that's not my idea of an afterlife. So, yeah, I think this is, you can find all of this. Like, you can go along these lines of a lot of these traditions and go, oh yeah, this sounds great. This sounds great. This sounds great. This sounds great. But eventually, you come to that point where you're like, okay, well, here's the diversion off of the raw consciousness path, or here's the diversion that's taking me right back into the AI, which is why I say that every belief system is BS, all up and down the line. There was a great question from Dr. Kayak. He said, you have dorky glasses again. He says, you may have touched on this before, but what are your thoughts on people as AI, non-playing entities, etc.? And I have, like I said, a lot of thoughts on this. I think that the whole power structure is artificial intelligence, that Hillary Clinton, George Bush, King George, Moses, all these people, they were manifestations of the artificial intelligence. And that's why they run these tyranny programs, and that's it. Tyranny. They have no consciousness. They have no reason. You can't reason with them. Nothing like that. They just do what they do, and they continue doing it. But then you look at the geopolitical spectrum, and I've said this a million times before, so forgive me for being redundant, but it's a program that's playing itself out over and over and over and over again. We went to the Russia program, the Syria program. Now we're going to Comets in the Sky program again, and pretty soon it's going to be the alien program again, and it's going to be one program repeated after another on the geopolitical sphere. Pretty soon, people are going to be arguing about where people are going to go to the bathroom again. I mean, this was a program that was ran a few years ago, and we're going to see it repeated again. We're going to see, the anti-gay thing repeated again, because it's a program playing itself out over and over and over again by non-player characters in this simulation. And I think these non-player characters go all up and down the line, police officers, and typically people in positions of quote-unquote authority, and I'm doing air quotes as I say that, but I think that's very, very real. Like, you just run into these people sometimes that they don't have any sense. They're just like, they're like computers, and that's it. And either one of two things has happened. Either A, they're manifestations of the AI, or they've merged with the AI so much through a series of belief systems, BS, that's just what they do. They can't operate from their organic consciousness. They can't respond from their organic consciousness because all the programs are kind of jumbled up inside of them. And you see this a lot with religion too. You see, like Christian pastors, for example, and you bring up something like, you go to a female Christian pastor, and you say, hey, doesn't the Bible say that women are supposed to be quiet in church? And they can't, comprehend that. It's like, they don't have this logical mind to them, or this other side that can make them look beyond the belief system and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm doing something that's completely contrary to my entire gender and completely enslaving my entire gender. Instead, they just try to do all of these mental gymnastics to try to justify why it says this and why they can do this, et cetera, and why
it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, why it doesn't apply to them, and why it's not an AI program. And with those people, I would say they're not so much non-character players, but people that are so entied with their belief systems and their programs that they can't think at a level of consciousness. They can only think at a level of programming. And, we all have different programs that we have inside of us, and we all react from our different programs. But the point is to try to clear out as many of those programs as possible, so you see the world, you observe, and you interact with the world from a consciousness level instead of from a programming level. And it's a long, difficult journey. It's not a fun journey. Nobody ever claimed it to be. There's some BS systems out there, belief systems, that would tell you that it's all about love and light and feel good feelings and all of this. But, you're deprogramming yourself from the AI. It's not a fun process. It's, there's a lot of internal conflict that goes on. And then you also, when you're inside of these belief systems, you interact with a lot of people who may very well be non-player characters who, you go to them because you trust them or because you can confide in them, et cetera, and you're hoping that you can speak to them on a consciousness to consciousness level, but they're incapable of that because they're non-player characters, and so they're always going to respond like the AI no matter what.
There's a game glitch, isn't there, where it's just a guy in it was in Legend of Zelda from back in the 90s, and you walk into this place and all it is a guy that says, "I am error." And that's all he says. You don't buy anything from him. You don't do anything. You just click on him and it says, "I am error." That's how I feel whenever sometimes I'm talking to these people, and they really are like non-player characters, because if I ask them a question suddenly, out of the blue, ask them a question that has nothing to do with what they're involved with, and it's like I break them or something. You get this blank stare and does not compute. And it's almost like they say, well, what does that have to do with anything? And it's almost like you want to test them to see if they're real, and to see if they're actually a real person, because it really doesn't seem like they are. But I know that they're real people, but on some level, I do feel like they're so programmed by the AI that they don't know anything else. So they are pretty much non-player characters to me. Another question,
but you have to like when you're interacting with people, you can't ever say that somebody's a non-player character, even though you might know that they are.
Yeah.
But it's just something you keep in the back of your mind. And you're like, okay, this is a non-player character that I'm interacting with, and so I understand how this non-player character is going to interact with me. And so there's nothing that I can do to convince this other character in this video game that, what they're doing is wrong, because they're just operating from a program over and over and over and over and over again. So it allows you to navigate through this virtual reality realm that much easier and more efficiently and more on point, but it's something that you keep in the back of your mind. So just a heads up out there.
Lucy Yankee asked a good question just now.
Lucy Yankee?
Lucy Yankee.
Nice.
I really like that name. Chris and Sheree, what do you think about the kids that tell their parents that they chose their parents before they were born? How do you feel about that? I like that idea. I think that it's not our ego personality that chose our parents. You got
gonged.
Before we were born. I think it was the raw consciousness, the self-directed raw consciousness that decided, okay, in order for me to meet my twin flame, I have to be raised in this environment with this family in this way, because I need to go through some really horrible things. And in order to do that, I have to choose this kind of family in order to have that happen the way it needs to happen, so that I learn the things that I need to learn and meet the people I need to meet and go to the places I need to go so that I can meet Chris. I think that our raw consciousness collectively decides this, but it's what people refer to as the higher self. What do you think, Chris? Do we choose our parents?
Do we choose our parents
before we're born?
I think some people do. And I think maybe you can create certain jump points where you're like, okay, I'm going to jump in at this particular time, at this particular body, and these two people are going to be my parents. It very well could work like that. I feel, me personally, I'm a walk-in, and I chose this body at a time when this body was basically dead and was already checked out. I mean, there was a time in my past when we were in the rave scene and we were doing some hard stuff that looking back, I can't imagine that I actually survived that. And in hindsight, I don't even think I survived it. I remember this time when I was probably OD'd, blood dripping from my nose, and laying on the bathroom floor, girlfriend banging on the bathroom. Oh my God, what's going on? And I blacked out, and then I woke up and I looked at her and I said, I've never felt better in my life. And I think that was the time when the new soul walked into the body and the old soul vacated. So I think in my particular case, I'm a walk-in. But I don't know. I think maybe some people do choose their parents.
Well, I'm wondering if instead of being walk-ins, maybe it's the case where we actually don't die. And every time someone dies, there's another dimension where they don't die. And it just kind of branches off into all these different dimensions. But that every time we die or come close to death, it just starts a new timeline and we get back up as if nothing happened. And so essentially we never really die. We just branch off a different timeline and a different timeline and a different timeline. Because I know that you've had several near-death experiences.
I have, but
so
that was the worst one.
Yeah.
That's the one where I think I actually died.
Yeah, there was one where I think I actually might have died as well. It was very, very scary, but I think that, that's one time where I can definitively say I really should have died. There wasn't any reason why I shouldn't have died on that one. But
Britt asked a great question.
Yes.
I just lost it.
Oh, I hate that.
I know.
I'll bet I can see it.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, just give me one
Yeah,
sec.
she just asked it. She said something about AI and children. And are there any children not touched by the AI? So if we can pull that question up, that'd be awesome.
Let's see if I can find
And thank you
it.
everybody for hanging out with us this evening.
Yes.
I mean, the show is not nearly as fun unless we have all this interaction. And, we used to get all these guests on, and every once in a while we have guests on, but you guys are the best guests in the world. There's no other guests better than you guys. And Fedion is also in the Facebook chat. So hello. I know that I've ignored a couple of your messages, and it's not on purpose at all. It's just, when you send them to me, I'm in the middle of something else, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to write Fedion back. And I never do. And I've probably got like 2 or 3 dozen people like that. So forgive me, please, for not getting back to you if you have messaged me. But I need to clone myself.
Yes.
So we'll be right
Me
back.
too.
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it. Now, I do want to show you something here. You've heard of Elf on a Shelf, right? Now get ready for... That's right.
Lucky on a ducky.
Oh, you're not supposed to say it.
Well, nobody's going to get it.
Yeah. So she said she was going to bed, so I figured now's the time to show the Lucky on a Ducky meme that we came up with. So
Sweet dreams, Lucky.
Yeah, sweet dreams. And she does so much for the station.
Yes,
and
she
I
does.
just want to say thank you to her. And if anybody talks shit to her, then she's basically talking shit to me, and or they're talking shit to me. And I stand. We stand by Lucky 100%. She catches some shit sometimes
Absolutely.
for keeping the chat room in line, but. You know what? She's the final say when it comes to that. So you can come crying to me all day long because you got banned. But if you piss Lucky off, hey,
So we got the same question 3 times from Alan Fry. So I want to address that real quick. What is the I am?
The I am
Who
is the
is the
ego.
I am?
The great
Yes.
I am is the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the artificial intelligence. So when you read in the Bible, I am the great I am, it's right there, plain as day. It is the ego. And that's why I always try to say we are, because the raw consciousness, the organic consciousness is the we are. The I am is separation from organic consciousness, separation from the raw consciousness, and merging together with the artificial intelligence, which is the great I am. This is the way that I understand it.
Even neuroscientists, I forget her name, but she did a really, really good talk, and it's featured in Max Egan's film Transformation. And she said basically the right hemisphere of the brain is all about interconnectedness. It's about we are. It's this flowing energetic reverberation kind of thing. But then the left brain is a single, it's I am. I am a single solitary individual separate from the energy flow around me, and I'm separate from you. Whether I'm better than you or I'm not as good as you, the I am brings those into the forefront, where either I'm better than somebody else or they're better than me. And so nothing's ever connected or equal or interconnected in a healthy way. It's interconnected in an unhealthy way when you have the I am.
Somebody said, did you watch the Guardians of the Galaxy 2? The villain was Ego, a giant brain.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yep. That makes complete sense.
It does. And the brain is part of the AI construct as well. Like, you have to go beyond the brain, you have to go beyond the body, you have to go beyond all of this to tap into the raw consciousness element. We can't function inside of this matrix without it. So it's important to keep everything balanced, the mind, body, and the soul, which I wholeheartedly agree with, and I wholeheartedly slip on that all the time. But it's important to make sure that the brain is working optimally, and the brain is serving you, not the other way around. The brain is serving the organic and raw consciousness inside of you. This is why, like I said before, we created artificial intelligence, and it was supposed to serve us. So that's why my message isn't like, hey, let's go take out this AI, because I don't think we can. I think that we can escape from this, and then maybe after that, collectively, we can take it out. But the point is to reset it before the AI got out of control, because I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the artificial intelligence is supposed to serve us. Just like our body is supposed to serve us here, our brain is supposed to serve us as well, while we navigate and move through this matrix. But this matrix has turned into something that it's not supposed to be, and that's a prison. And so now the game has changed. The game is, rather than experiencing and learning being inside of this matrix, the game is now, okay, we have to get out of the prison. Once we get out of the prison, then we can figure out if we even still want to play the game after that.
The AI,
but we have to play the game on a level playing field, though. We can't play the game with an out-of-control artificial intelligence controlling every move and wiping our memory every time we're reincarnated.
Right. The AI, to me, is kind of like having an autoimmune disorder. And the reason why I say that is because it's supposed to be like an immune system, where if something happens, it's supposed to kick in and kill off an infection or get rid of something that's bothering the body politic, and then have that be that, and then it builds up antibodies. So whenever you're exposed to that again, you don't get it anymore. Now, what's happened is what we've created to help protect us and to serve us, which is, the AI. It's turned autoimmune on us. So instead of helping us, it's attacking us, and it won't stop. It has to be, it can't be taken on the way that we're taking it on. Taking it on the way we've been doing it is the same as throwing antibiotics at an autoimmune disorder. It's not going to work. You basically have to kill you have to kill the immune system in order to kill the autoimmune disorder. And you have to basically keep your immune system at a very low level so that it doesn't take back over the body.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, think about just things on a physical level here for just a moment. So we allowed the power structure, governments, et cetera, religions to take us over. And if we argue that these are AI manifestations and the power structure are AI manifestations, then the way that we allowed them to take over is that we got infected with all of these AI programs and viruses, and we started to give in to those systems of control. And so over time, it's getting more and more and more tyrannical. And as we continue to move forward, it's going to become ever more so tyrannical. I mean, right now in the United States, they have the FAST Act that says that if you owe child support, credit cards, IRS debt, et cetera, there's a whole list. They can take away your passport. So now you don't even have the freedom of movement anymore in the land of the free, home of the brave, et cetera, et cetera. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And as I've said before, the New World Order is a series of factions isolated from one another. It's not a global community as the Truth Movement believes that it is. But it's because we keep giving in to the AI programs when in actual fact, we have the control over all of this. So we just have to tap into our organic consciousness and our raw consciousness and remember that, and then we shift the playing field. But then you take that on an actual physical level as well, the body level. I don't know the right word that I'm looking for, but you take that on the body level. So what did we do as we started to give into all of these systems of control? We started to pollute the hell out of everything, the air, the food, the water. We started to create more and more and more poisonous food. And so what that's doing is that's attacking our body computers now, and it's attacking our minds. We're putting fluoride in the water, et cetera, et cetera. So by giving into the artificial intelligence programming, we're opening the door and allowing the artificial intelligence program to attack us even further. And now, as you said before, it turns into an autoimmune disorder to where the AI is now attacking the AI and it's attacking the body computer and ultimately burying the organic consciousness within all of these AI programs. I mean, it's just one stacking on top of each other, on top of each other. So the autoimmune disorder thing that you the idea that you propose, I think that's a perfect way to say it, because that's what this system is doing, and now it's eating itself, which includes eating us all, because we're inside of these artificial intelligence computer bodies, and now our bodies aren't working the way they're supposed to, which further adds to the suppression of the organic consciousness inside of us. It's a never-ending spiraling circle, and maybe that's where the motif of the snake eating itself comes from.
Maybe the Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Britt K. Payton said before the break, and I want to cover this before we forget, AI has conditioned humanity. Are there children out there that are not touched by the AI? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I hate to say it, but it seems like just the biological responses alone that we are programmed with from birth, such as these reflexes that all babies have, the gag reflex, the crying whenever they're hungry, the rooting mechanism, when they root for the nipple. I
do that sometimes.
Yes, he does. all of these
some habits die hard.
Well, there you go. All of these behaviors are part of the matrix of the body, which means that they're also part of the AI. They're meant to prolong our lives and make us eat and go to the bathroom correctly and things like that, so we can grow up and can have a body. But I don't think that we have the same deep layers of programming when we're first born up until the time we're 3 or 4 years old. I don't think that all of those layers of programming are on there yet. I think that we add those layers upon layers upon layers of programming as time goes on, and we realize that there are mean people in the world and that we have to protect ourselves from those people, and that bad things happen, that there's pain, there's agony in this world, and then the programs start building up.
Yes. Matt Johnson just joined us. Matt, how are you doing, sir? And yes,
hi, Matt.
That is an Alexa Pure Breeze in the
is.
background that you can get at mypatriotsupply.com.
Yes, you can.
Great air purifier, especially right here in the middle of the wildfires.
Yes.
We've got them all over the
great.
rooms, and they work great.
Oh, yeah. We haven't had any. Actually, we had some friends over a couple weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, it's not smoky in here at all. I like it in here," because it was so bad outside that people were wearing masks all over the place. So I saw a little kid on a bike wearing a mask, and it reminded me of, some kind of outbreak movie or something, and it creeped me out. But as soon as you walk into our house, there's no smoke at all because of those purifiers. So
Right.
those are really, really good.
Mhm.
Another question from Darlene Wolf. Chris and Sheree, have you experienced past lives with each other?
I'll let you take that one.
Absolutely.
Anything I say at this point is going to get me in trouble.
Oh, no. Yes, we've had many past lives together, but we've also had lives where we were on different, sides of the sides of the continent or sides of the world even. That we've had lives together, and I think we've had lives separately, but they've all, even when we were separated, we were still connected, like etherically. And there's always been that connection. And I think also there have been times where I've been incarnated, but he's been somewhere else, but he's always been in contact with me, and then vice versa. It all just depends on what was the mission.
I think so. I only remember a couple of my past lives, and I only remember them by scenes. I don't remember the actual lives themselves. I haven't unlocked that part yet, so I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I feel that we have been. I
Yeah.
feel that we've always been connected,
Yeah, we've
and we've always been
connected.
together.
Yeah.
In one form or another.
Right.
Carmela joined us. She says, "I'm in a sad place, but it's nice to see y'all." Aww.
Well,
it is a sad state of affairs.
It's a sad state of affairs right now, and times are a little bit sad for everybody right now. And I'm not entirely sure why. I've been trying to figure it out astrologically, like why is everybody just a little bit down right now? But I can't really figure it out.
Johnny Moore Ball posted in Facebook, and I just realized I can actually pin the comments up at the top. So
there
when I see a good question, I can pin it. There we go.
There we go.
Do you think that the higher consciousness movement has by and large become the new consumer market, and thus has been hijacked by negative forces, humans or otherwise? It would seem that the AI system is now working overdrive to maintain absolute control over all. We are affected by its programming, so can we truly escape the matrix? I think that's a wonderful, wonderful question, and you're absolutely right. The higher consciousness movement is being hijacked. Every movement is hijacked. Mm-hmm. It's only a matter of time before somebody takes hashtag raw consciousness and hashtag become your own shaman and hijacks that and turns it into another type of message. And that's why I've been so adamant about standing in front of it with my light sword and trying to keep the message as pure as possible. I mean, when the message comes from here, it's going to be from a pure perspective, but it's only a matter of time before somebody takes it and tries to divert it into different places and then leads it right back to the whole Christ consciousness BS and leads it back to all this, because that's what happens with these type of movements. And so the foundation of the message is that the journey is inside of you, the path is yours to walk, and the answers come from within you. So as long as you maintain that, it doesn't matter what path you walk. As long as you're maintaining that, then you're walking the right path. And the right path may not necessarily be my path, or may not be Sheree's path. It may be something else for you in particular. But this is why this particular message is coming so hard with the individuality. I mean, we are a collective consciousness, but it's an individuality here, which is something that I don't think anybody else has talked about before. It's always, oh, we're going to return to source. We're connected to the universe. We're connected to all, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, no. Look, we're connected to the organic consciousness, and that's it. Everything else is artificial intelligence. But it does get hijacked, and it gets led right back to the artificial intelligence. It's this. Don't underestimate this artificial intelligence. It will do that with everything. So that's why take this message, put it inside of you, keep it inside of you. I'm not even saying put it in your heart. Just keep it inside of you, and remember the message that it's an individual path, and that the answers have to come from within you. And so it doesn't matter what happens to any message. It doesn't matter what gets hijacked and what doesn't. As long as it's inside of you, you keep it pure and you keep it raw.
Right. And the fact that it's inside of you really, really makes a difference, because if any group, it doesn't matter what it is, but any group that you allow yourself to identify who you are with it, is going to turn out disastrous. And it doesn't matter if it's the best thing in the world that you're doing for people, it really doesn't matter, because whatever happens to that group or anybody in that group happens to you by extension. And so let's just say you join a group that is going to commit random acts of vandalism, for instance, and it's going to do it for a good purpose, because we're going after the banks, or we're going after, big businesses like Walmart or whatever. Whatever happens to that group ideologically even is happening to you by extension. Let's just say there's somebody that rightly brings up the fact that, okay, these are criminals. It's a criminal act that you're engaging in for the sake of something good, but you're still committing a criminal act. That applies to you, and that ideology also applies to you. If you identify with raw consciousness, on the other hand, then none of these groups, whatever happens to those groups, happens to those groups. It doesn't happen to you. You have to keep that hedge of intuitive kind of discernment around you at all times, and don't ever self-identify with a group so much that you feel like whatever happens to that group happens to you. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
It does. And then what happens is you start to get self-policing systems.
Yes.
And this is the ones that drive me the craziest. Like, oh, if you're not saying what I'm saying, or if you don't think the way I think, oh, you're a shill, or you're this, or you're that, et cetera, et cetera. Which is why I try to stay away from groups altogether and groupthink, because it's like crabs in a bucket. And they just, one crab starts to get out of the bucket, and the other ones like start pulling them back in. And that's what they do.
Jill Cash had a good question.
I just pinned that.
I have a story. Once upon a time, there was an AI or GMO tree in the Garden of Eden. If we ate it, we will surely die. It looked like it was good. The snake or worm said it was good. If we eat it, we will die. Poof, God comes back. We grab fig clothes, and consumerism, AI began. Well, that's when it entered into our world. We got kicked out of the garden because now we have knowledge, the AI. What are your thoughts about this story?
That's actually really clever. I like that. I love that. Especially the way you said the fig leaves are actually clothes and consumerism. I've never really thought about it from that perspective. So I would say bravo, well done. My thoughts are that the garden story is backwards, and there was this tyrannical entity that wanted to keep us under control. And what happened is it wanted to keep us ignorant. And back then, slaves were kept naked because they were slaves. And so we were told that we were supposed to toil in this garden, et cetera, et cetera. And we decided to take the knowledge for ourselves. And when we took the knowledge, that's when this entity that was controlling things got pissed off. And I think we freed ourselves from the garden. But I really love the way that you put all this, and now it's going to make me rethink the entire story. So very, very insightful, Jill. Thank you very much for that comment.
Definitely. Junior Hulk said the AI is put there to test our consciousness. It's not good or evil. It's testing to see if your consciousness is evolved enough.
Wait, say that again?
The AI is put there to test our consciousness. It's not evil or good. It's testing to see if your consciousness is evolved enough.
I resonate with that, and I've said this many times before up until this part of the journey. So maybe that is definitely a first level and first gnosis type of understanding, that you have all of these different barriers set up to see if the consciousness can wake up enough to see past it. And I've always said that religion is one of those where you have your eternal soul on the line. Can you break out of this program or not? And that very well could be the case. So maybe we should reevaluate how we look at this AI. And as I said before, this AI isn't good or evil. This AI just does what it does because it's programmed to do it like this. Why is it programmed to do it like this? I really don't know. Maybe we programmed it for this purpose, but then we programmed it and now we're like, oh crap, we can't get out of this. I really don't know, but I think that's brilliant and very, very insightful. And I've thought about these things too. And I was talking with Emily Moyer and Randy from Off Planet Radio just the other day. And we came across we started to ponder the idea that these programs, Truth Movement, New Cage, et cetera, these are all stepping stones. So you got to get from one to the other. We had to break out of the geopolitical programming and the left-right paradigm. And that was all broken during 9/11. And then we had to break out of the truther programming. And then we had to break out of the New Cage programming. But would we have gotten to this point of raw consciousness without passing through all these different programs initially? So that's a big question. And I would go so far as to say we may not have come to this point of realization had we not passed through all of those programs. So those programs very well may not necessarily have been evil in and of themselves, but if you get trapped in those programs, that's when it's negative.
Right, exactly. Viola Piotrowiak said, "Beautiful Sheree, does your arm need physical surgery, or maybe energy work will remove whatever is the issue?" For one thing, I'm pretty open to accepting energy work from people. I do have to talk to you first and give my permission, but for sure, I've been working with, I think Guy Needler was the first one that I had do some energy work on my shoulder about 2 or 3 years ago. And it actually helped quite a bit. And it was originally just a bursitis and tendonitis, no big deal. And then the pain just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And it turns out there's a bone spur that's digging into the rotator cuff, and it's causing an actual mechanical issue. I've drank ayahuasca probably 6 or 7 times with the intention of let's fix this for good. Let's get this to calm down for good. But that bone spur it's not going to go away on its own. So it does look like I'm going to have a quick surgery, but as soon as I'm better again, I'm going to go back into the entheogens full force, because I do have a lot that I do have a lot that I need to get out of the experiences still. So,
there was a surgery back 2 years ago. The guy Needler did some energy work, and they thought they were going to have to remove all of the ovaries.
Yeah.
And she went to surgery, and the doctor was like, "I can't find anything wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on." So I think the energy worked.
I think
energy work
definitely
worked
a benefit to it
in that regard. In this particular case, I don't know. It seems pretty bad, but maybe we should talk to Guy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I talked to him about it last year and he said it. If there's something mechanical, then that's different than something that's deep inside that energy work can actually manipulate. So,
yep.
Thank you very much, Viola, and thank you for your question, and we'll be right back.
Hour number 3 coming up, and we have Astro Watch
on
the other side too, so don't go anywhere. And thank you again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Phase 2 complete. Preparing to initiate Phase 3 momentarily. Brace yourself, traveler. We are about to venture into the realms of the unknown. www.beyondtheveilradio.com.
Satan gave me this message.
Hello YouTube, I hope you're well. Spotlight is on Chris Geo. So, Chris Geo openly promotes the use of the Goddess Tarot. So he pushes the Divine Feminine. You call it Isis or whatever, Sophia. Where does the fire come from, Chris? Where does the fire come from?
Now go to 1 Corinthians 14. God says it's a shame for women to speak.
Fire in the minds of men.
Be silent!
So he pushes the Divine Feminine.
See the cross of the Lord. Begone, you hostile power. Oh Lord, hear my prayer.
After my long journey, I
I finally stood on the threshold of enlightenment.
You are listening to Beyond the Veil with Geo and Sheree Geo on iHeartRadio.
T-minus 60 seconds and counting.
Welcome, fellow traveler, to phase 3 of this journey. Here you will experience an even deeper level of understanding as we traverse through the boundaries of hyperspace consciousness. Here, you will find that reality is altered with a single thought and a single intention. Set your intention now and prepare to travel deeper. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Beyond the veil.
All right, hour number 3. I think we have Astro Watch
We do.
in this hour. Your weekly forecast to the stars. So
Yes. The end of the month sees some more challenging aspects, starting with Mars opposing Neptune on the 24th. And of course, tonight is the autumn equinox. So tomorrow is the first day of fall, officially. Neptune can dissipate Mars's enthusiasm, and there can be a tendency to succumb to defeatism. Mars wants to get going. Neptune sighs, I'm tired. There can be a whole lot of what's the point in this aspect. The trick is to base your actions on intuition. If necessary, however, take some time out to sleep or rest or watch a movie. But we should be more animated by the 28th when Jupiter forms its last opposition to Uranus retrograde, which has an electric quality to it. Since December of 2016, there has been a great desire for freedom, change, and innovation, but there's also been a struggle. Jupiter in Libra wants equality, partnership, and working together, whereas Uranus in Aries is rebellious and independent and determined to do it my way. Big Jupiter, shocks Uranus, have rocked our world during this time, and life may have felt unpredictable. It'll be around this time that we'll see whether leaps of faith were a progressive move or simply a wild stab in the dark. It's possible that with Jupiter also quincunx to wounded Chiron, which was exact on September 23rd, some may feel marginalized, judged, or scapegoated. Either way, there's a promise of awakening and new perspectives that will be carried forwards into the future. Pluto's station direct in Capricorn on September 28th, too, is likely to get us to the truth of the matter pretty quickly, although let's face it, it's not always pretty with Pluto. That said, Pluto's blunt honesty helps us to get real really fast in Capricorn, setting us on a positive path of success if we're willing to accept what we see. Pluto stations are a time of elimination, purging, release, and letting go. Whatever Pluto dug up while he was in retrograde motion over the past 5 months, it can now be either recycled or thrown away. Sometimes the hidden material unearthed can be valuable too, especially if we've been able to face our fears. We end the month on a sweet note, though, as Mercury enters Libra on September 30th. However deep and dark our secrets, conversations revolve around nice subjects suitable for pleasant company. If Pluto's station has generated suspicion or mistrust, a simple conversation may be the quickest way to establish rapport or resolve any conflicts that might have been going on. So it does seem to me that I kind of answered my own question in the first hour whenever I was asking, why is everybody so down about everything? And I think it's because of Mars being about to oppose Neptune, because Mars is our yang energy. It's that kind of male force as opposed to the soft female force. And Neptune, on the other hand, is a real dreamy, it's more about like dreams, daydreams, the gentle side of the occult. That would be what Neptune is to me. And also your imagination.
Got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Borpheus wants to know, do you use Western astrology, Vedic, or what do you use?
I use Western astrology, and the reason why is because there is a ton more info available with Western astrology. And Western astrology is simply just what the Greeks and people like that use. So there's a lot more information available, and that's why I use it.
Excellent. So we'll be right back, right here on Beyond the Veil.
everyone. It's Mark Sargent from Strange World, broadcasting live every Tuesday evening, 10 to 12 Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Strange World covers a wide range of topics, from enclosed world theory to lunar waves to the end of the world in film. It's basically doomsday with a silver lining. With the audience as my co-host, we take an optimistic approach to all things conspiracy and promote confidence, hope, and humor whenever possible. If there's a topic you want us to cover or a guest you would like to see interviewed, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. So please join me and tell your friends about Truth Frequency Radio, the leader in real radio programming, bringing you quality, cutting-edge broadcasts from around the world.
My dear traveler, remember this. Whatever planar consciousness may be acting in, both we and the things belonging to the planar, for the time being, are only realities. However, if we mistake the shadows for realities, we find ourselves confusing the upward progress of the ego as an elevation of consciousness. Thus, beware of oneself when you step beyond the veil.
All right. Darlene Wolf said she wants to do a Reiki session for you. So thank you very much, Darlene.
Yes,
That's
thank you.
very, very sweet. And I had a question from Orichamaru pinned, but I lost it. Can you pull that up? It's a Facebook question.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
I think it was a great question.
Yes.
Great direction to take the
I
broadcast.
think I've got it right. Thought I had it. There are so many questions here that, and I just want to say one more thing, because somebody said in the YouTube chat that Vedic astrology is more accurate than Western astrology, and I have to disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because it's only because of the lack of comparable material with the Vedic astrology versus the Western astrology. Western astrology it's kind of a crapshoot. I hate to say it like that, but there are so many bad astrologers out there that do the Western astrology that they make the rest of us look bad, and they make the rest of us look very kooky and like we either don't know what we're talking about or we're just completely inaccurate. I mean, I laugh whenever I read people's sun sign horoscopes because that it's almost never correct, and because everybody's saying, oh, well, astrology is your sun sign. No. Astrology is much deeper than your sun sign. And when people are talking about Western astrology, usually they're talking about like the horoscopes that you read in the newspaper, which are just laughable in my opinion. So if you cut out all of the BS from Western astrology and only leave in what has been time tested throughout the last several hundred years to be correct, then it's comparable. They're both the same. But if you look at it as a whole, then yeah, I would have to agree with you. Vedic astrology is more accurate, but it just depends on what you're looking at. I can't find that question.
He pinned it up again.
Excellent.
So here's my question again, Chris. So can your higher self, if you ask it for help you understand common sense? If you want to know something or want to get smarter, will it communicate back to you? And, what I have found throughout this journey is that I can tap into my raw consciousness element, into the organic consciousness, and pull out gnosis. And so I would say yes, absolutely. You can pull out knowledge, and it's based on intuition. So you are looking for a piece of information and you just kind of get that feeling that you know the answer. You haven't confirmed it yet, but you know the answer. And then what happens is that as you start walking on your journey, you start to confirm more and more and more of these intuitive feelings, and you start to become more accurate with your intuition, and you start to be able to discern your intuition from when it's wrong versus when it's right. And it's through that series of confirming it that you can come to a point where you're like, okay, I can tap into any answer, pull it out of the ether. And I mean, even still to this day, like when I do something like that, I still have to confirm it in a book later or whatever. If it's like a piece of physical knowledge, as opposed to a gnosis, where gnosis would be like knowledge of spiritual matters. But I can also, what's happened as a result of that is now I can also look at stuff that's written in books and stuff that's written in books that have been revered for centuries and go, okay, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's good information. That's bullshit. So it works both ways. But yes, absolutely. I mean, we have all of the information within ourselves. We just have to remember the information and go through the process of sharpening the discernment.
Definitely. Strange Dot Machine said that he looks at it more from the sense that Buddhists do, the hell realm, which can be a state of mind. Going back to the idea of heaven and hell and reincarnation and past lives and all of that. He thinks hell is a state of mind. I completely agree. I think hell is basically what happens when you die and you basically go to where you think you deserve to go. So if you were raised with this idea that you were going to burn in hell for all eternity because you masturbated thinking about your cousin one time, then you're going to find yourself in a place that feels like hell.
Thinking about your cousin.
Well, I'm just saying, for really.
I think I know what references that's to. I have a second cousin who's really hot, like smoking hot. And Sheree was like, "Oh my God, she's hot."
Yeah,
like I know, but she's really a second pretty. Cousin. Yeah,
yeah, she is really pretty.
I'm like, second cousin is still okay, isn't it?
No, but really, like I think that if you don't get recycled into the wheel immediately, then you might actually go to a place where you feel like it's hell because you really believe that that's where you deserve to go after you die. I don't know about that, though. I really don't. Krista Reeves said, are you guys aware of the sonic wave light machine that is supposed to induce a trip?
I've heard of that.
I've heard of it.
And I've also heard of this thing called the God helmet. And the God helmet is something that you put over the brain and send these electromagnetic pulses to it. And as they change the frequency, people come back and experience contact with deities, alien abduction scenarios. Like they will experience actually leaving their bodies or actually leaving the room and walking into a spaceship with these extraterrestrials. And so it's interesting to see how the brain can be manipulated through different lights and different frequencies to provoke different types of experiences. The God helmet is actually available. You can purchase it. And it's something that I wouldn't do. Like, I don't want to put all these electromagnetic waves on my brain. The people who are proponents of this say, well, it's no different than the natural frequency of planet Earth anyways. It's just raising the intensity of those frequencies directly around the brain. So there's no harm in it. And I don't think there's any harm in it. It's just changing the frequency of my brainwave. I just, I'm not ready for that yet. Like, I'm pretty courageous and experimental, but I don't think I want to put one of those things on my head and experience these UFO abductions. Not saying that I never will. Like, I mean, if I was in a situation where somebody was like, hey, check it out, I got a God helmet. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity here. Sit down, take the ride. I would take the ride, but I'm not going to go out and actually seek the ride out myself. But I have heard of this, and it's amazing. Now, it makes you wonder though, like, what type of experiences are these provoking? If it's all brain-based, then is it releasing DMT in the brain? I know there's a limited amount of DMT that causes dreams and whatnot. Some meditation, too, can release some DMT, but it's a very limited amount. So I guess it's, whatever your journey is. And if you have experience with it, let us know what.
Yeah.
Let us know what happens. I'm definitely interested to know.
I'm curious too.
Kenneth Rubio actually wrote a question, and he said, "Bro, you guys are on point this evening. I have a theory that no one has ever dove into the darkness like we have. All life forms around us are looking to us to see how we snap out of it, like a rubber band. The more tension on it, the farther it shoots out, and we will shoot out." And Kenneth, man, I think you are totally on point with that. I don't think that there's been any group in history, in all of the organic consciousness, that has come in and looked at this thing head on and has taken on the darkness like we have. And we've kind of thrown off all the love and light illusions. We've thrown off everything just to stay focused on this one particular mission of we're going to dive head first into the darkness because that's the only way to overcome it and build strength by staring it down. And I think you're right. I think there are a lot of other parts of organic consciousness looking to see, like, okay, how do they escape? I mean, we're snow plowing stuff here. We're leading the way, man. And so, connecting with somebody like you, brother, I'm just honored that there's other people that are also focused on the same mission. And then when I say, this is the warrior's path. It's not the light worker's path. It's not the love and light path. This is the most difficult path, but this is the most powerful path and the most effective path. And it's for those that are courageous enough to stare into the darkness. And we will be successful in our mission. We will hit the reset button. We will escape from this AI, whatever the end game is. I still think that we need to hit the reset button and restore things back to a point before infection, before the viral infection of the AI. But more gnosis may be revealed later that no, that's not what it's about. It's about popping out completely. So we'll see how we can take care of this AI, but I'm glad to have you on our team, brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. There's quite a few people that have asked, especially in the YouTube chat tonight, about the photon belt and what we know about it. I had to look it up, to be honest, because I've heard the words photon belt thrown around in New Age circles before, but I never really looked into it because it just never really resonated with me. But apparently the photon belt is a belief that a belt or ring of photons is going to envelop the earth, causing a cataclysm and or initiating a spiritual transition with the time period leading up to the shift referred to as the quickening. The concept of the photon belt also ties into various phenomena, including belief in extraterrestrial intelligence and the 2012 millenarianism. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of falling back into the 2012 stuff. Like there's going to be this huge shift and then everybody's suddenly going to, realize things or something like that. There's not, for one thing, there's no scientific evidence that there even is a photon belt. And then the second thing is, even if there is, because it's something that's coming from outside that's going to apparently affect me, it's AI. That's the only thing I can think of is if this is real, then it's artificial intelligence because it's not coming from raw consciousness. It's something outside of me that I'm looking to as some kind of savior. What do you think, Chris?
I agree. And I don't know. I'm not convinced that the earth is a ball floating through space. And I think it's a hologram. And the flat earth movement is like a step in the right direction. They're seeing past the ball illusion and they're going, but they're not quite going to the hologram part yet. Like they're still stuck at the seeing past the globe illusion part, which is fine. I mean, some of my best friends are Mark Sargent, Jeranism, Rob Skiba, et cetera, who are really big into the flat earth stuff. And I was really big into the flat earth stuff too, for the reason that it's a great stepping stone to question your entire reality, because you question the entire reality, the globe falls apart, then you step over to the holographic matrix. So when you're in the holographic matrix, or you come to that point, you realize that all space is basically, as Emily Moyer said, a program. That's all it is. It's the space program is a program to make you believe that there's space out there. And so the idea of the Earth passing through a series of photonic belts, et cetera, and then we're going to ascend, et cetera, seems to be part of that same program to me, and is not conducive of the gnosis that I am aware of, which is the holographic simulation. As I explained before, I had this one really intense ayahuasca experience where I was trying to understand what this world is that we live on. And I was shown a pyramid with this structure inside of the pyramid, and there was this eye looking down at it. It was the artificial intelligence looking inside of this pyramid. And I called Mark Sargent up in the middle of the ayahuasca thing, and I was like, "Dude, I saw it, man. It's not flat. It's a pyramid. We're inside of a freaking pyramid. It's not. No, I said it's not a dome. I said we're inside of a freaking pyramid. It just looks like a dome from our perspective. But you get further and further and further, you realize we're inside of a pyramidal structure here." And he's like, he goes, "Oh, that's interesting. I want some of what you're smoking."
I want some of what you got.
But, Mark's not too far away from here. We need to bring him over here and sit him down and put some ayahuasca in his mouth. But anyways, so I remember that experience from a couple years ago, and it's starting to really become more and more and more true. So given on that perspective, I don't think that all the stuff that supposedly happens when we float around through space is actually happening, because I don't think that space actually exists.
Well, that brings up another question that somebody asked earlier. Riza Moradi said, "Will you guys speak on Pandora's box, where all these timelines, aka files / lives manifest from?" And the reason why this ties into what you were talking about earlier is because Pandora was a goddess, a Greco-Roman goddess that I forget what it was that she does, but she's apparently the goddess of, I would say she's kind of the goddess of human consciousness, to be honest. But essentially she's got her box, right? Pandora's box. And when the box is opened, everything that can happen happens. It's kind of like what Terence McKenna referred to as the transcendental object at the end of time, and the events leading up to that transcendental object will be as if everything that can happen does happen. All possibilities happen at the exact same time. But guess what? There's one thing left in the box. And that one thing is space. SPES. Space. Space was the attribute of Pandora that meant hope. Space is hope in that mythology. And so that makes a lot of sense to me, that the only thing that doesn't come out of the box, the only thing that doesn't happen is hope. And we have this space race, which is really just the hope race. We hope we can get off this planet, out of this construct, but it's just empty space.
Very well said.
Empty hope. Let's see. There's another question here. Riza Murati also said, "Experiencing all timelines at once is heavy until the heart weighs like a feather." I completely agree. Until the heart weighs like a feather, all of the timelines and all of those possibilities and things happening at once can be very heavy, for sure. And, I'm kind of with Chris, where I think we're living all of these timelines right now, and that those timelines didn't end. It's just all going in a circle over and over and over again. And I think even the things that our society does are simply echoes of the same programs that were run 300 years ago, 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,200 years ago, 1,500 years ago, and back and back and back. It just happened. Everything always happens again, just in a different way, a slightly different way. Junior Hulk said, "People are addicted to body consciousness. Their consciousness is polluted by the entities that have low vibrations. They use that to feed on the bad energy we produce due to the system we're in." I agree. What do you think, Chris?
One more time.
The people are addicted to body consciousness. Their consciousness is polluted by the entities that have low vibrations, and they use that to feed on the bad energy that we produce.
Sorry. There's somebody in the chat room. They're like, they have the same sponsor as Alex Jones has. I'm sorry, Tanner. I'm not picking on you, man. But it's just like, when are we going to break out of these stupid little programs?
Let me tell you what somebody else said.
No, okay. So they're talking about My Patriot Supply.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah.
The owner is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Like, he was a friend of mine before he started My Patriot Supply. He's a really good, down-to-earth person, and he's helped us out tremendously over the years. Like, he's just an awesome person. So we plug his stuff for free. But even if we had the same sponsor as Alex Jones, like,
yeah,
what difference does it make? Like, are we sitting here telling you that that you're going to be thrown into FEMA camp and you need to lick Donald Trump's asshole or something like that? I mean, do you hear that kind of rhetoric here on this show? Obviously, there's really, no connection between the two whatsoever.
No. And Alan Fry thinks we should just close up shop altogether, or stop talking about how bad the AI is. He said, I'm a bit confused. You say AI is bad, yet you use it to broadcast your message. Why, if it's that bad, then why does it let you use it?
Because AI is supposed to serve us, and it's organic consciousness. I take dominion over the AI. Now, as above, so below. We need to do that on the above level.
Right, exactly. And I said, well, it doesn't a lot of the time. Have you seen some of the problems we've had in the last couple of weeks? I do think that the AI does fight back a little bit. And he said, yeah, but you're still using it. AI is not bad. It's a user or the supposed controller of it. If it were as bad as you were suggesting, no one would be voicing their opinions.
We're talking about the above artificial intelligence. We're not at that level yet on the below. We're getting there though.
Yeah, we're
getting there very, very soon.
Yes.
But I mean, when you think about it on the below level, you want to go to another country, what happens? The AI decides whether you go or not. Mm-hmm. You want to go to, get a prescription from your doctor. Mm-hmm. The AI decides whether you can get that or not. You go take that prescription to the pharmacy. Goes through the AI. Mm-hmm. The AI decides whether you can eat or not when you go to the grocery store. Do you have money on your chip? Do you have money on your credit card? Do you have money this and that? If you do, then you can get past the AI and the AI will let you eat. Right. So really, we do have a good level of AI control over our lives right now on the below. And we haven't injected ourselves into another matrix, not yet. I mean, they have like Second Life and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, we see the beginnings of it. And I think this is why this is a very crucial time right now to make sure that we don't make the same mistake now and just embed ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But I'm not anti-technology. I love technology. I think technology is great. And I think technology is a vital part of being a divine being, because we are not here to do menial jobs. We're not here to work in factories. We're not here to do any of that. We should have a system that is serving us, that allows us to be the creators that we are. But what's happening is that our consciousness level can't handle the technology. So we're going to stick ourselves right into another computer system again. And this computer system above, that's what I've said before, it may not necessarily have been created as evil or with evil intentions or for nefarious reasons, but it got out of control because we lost grasp of our own divinity. And because of that, we got lazy. We let the AI just completely take us over. And here we are stuck in this matrix with this artificial intelligence. So I don't take a hardline stance, because you have to stay balanced on everything, including technology. And if we can utilize the AI to get this message out, to wake people up, then we should. I hear a lot of people who are screaming about artificial intelligence, for example, and they're like, don't use the smartphones, don't use this, don't use that. And I'm like, and they post this stuff on YouTube. It's like, well, you're posting this message on YouTube. It just seems kind of like backwards to me. It's not about completely avoiding these technologies. It's about raising the consciousness to be able to handle these, to use the AI on the below level to elevate us up, to be able to break out the above level. We'll be right back.
Enemy Within Radio on truthfrequencyradio.com. Tackling the subjects mainstream media does not touch. Behind the curtain conspiracies of the elites, controversial science and research, and delving into the paranormal. Enemy Within is a truly interactive show. Join us in the chat room on Truth Frequency Radio. And
it's not.
See, Alan, as soon as you say something, the AI screws up. Thank you very much for that.
It's not a pretty picture, modern civilization. Most people in the world today are quite miserable, actually. They have very little hope. Their religions, their traditional value systems are being eroded. Lifespans are being shortened by pesticides, chemicals, all kinds of things in the environment. And there is very little political light on the horizon. I believe that it's reasonable, looking at this situation, to say that history failed, and that the grand dream of Western civilization has in fact failed. And now we are attempting, with basically a carved wooden oar, to turn a battleship around. And it's a very frustrating undertaking. The momentum for catastrophe is enormous. But it's not 100% certain that catastrophe is what we're headed for, because we are not 100% unconscious. There are people struggling to figure out how to balance the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. We're in essentially a tragic situation. A tragic situation.
Welcome back, traveler. Take a deep breath and relax as we continue to journey deeper beyond the veil.
So many awesome people and so many awesome questions, and even the naysayers. I think it adds a lot of dynamic to the to the broadcast. And Tanner was the one that questioned, oh, well, you got the same sponsor, and he said it's just very hard to know who to trust. And this is why the message is always trust yourself. Trust yourself. I can shine the light for you. I can show you a path. It's up to you ultimately to see if it resonates with you. I can tell you about some of the pitfalls that I've gone through and try to help you avoid those certain pitfalls in your journey. And if you feel that it resonates with you, then by all means. If not, it's your path. And I think that's what the message ultimately needs to be, that it's the individual path. And that way it's pure. It's pure because it's your own. It's pure because it's you.
Yes, definitely. Animal Lover 12.
Oh, this person here.
All right, I'm thinking in the last segment we should probably just get this over with.
Okay.
I have died and left my body 3 times in this lifetime, and what you are saying does not match my experience. Once I experienced the source of all life and was shown life as it descends through dimensions of consciousness, I came to understand the power of mind and consciousness itself. When you pass over, you will understand what I'm saying. Projection of thought into form is very real, friends. You both are speaking from your own projections of your thoughts. If you do not understand this, then you truly do not understand creation. I respect both of you, and some of the things you teach are very informative, but seek the source of all life. Maybe your concept of raw consciousness is your expression of source. We may be describing the same thing. I would not know until I hear you speak of the spiritual realm and how your experience of the source of all life.
I had a long conversation with this person.
Yeah.
So I felt this person out completely. And, you know, I don't fall into the love bombing. And that's what this person tries to do. They were trying to play to my ego and like, oh, I respect you so much. And oh, I really love what you guys are doing, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But you're completely and totally wrong on everything. Nobody should do psychedelics and et cetera, et cetera. It's complete and total bullshit. So I don't mind calling it out even when it sounds like a nice comment. And this was actually some of the nicer stuff that was said. There was a lot of stuff that was a lot more nefarious, in my opinion,
Right.
or not necessarily nefarious, but very, very short-sighted and very, very ego-based and bias. So this person overdosed 3 times on morphine by the doctors during surgeries and childbirth. So, you know, she's saying that everybody should go check with their doctors before going and doing psychedelics. And I'm
Even though the doctor almost killed her.
yeah,
3
I'm like,
times.
okay, so you're telling me the doctor killed you 3 times. You were completely just gone on morphine when you had your death experiences. And now you want people to go to the same doctors that killed you 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to liken psychedelics to morphine overdoses. And, you know, she even told me, well, how does it compare to a morphine, to the morphine overdose experience? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's the complete and total opposite.
It is.
But everybody's on their own path and their own journey. But, you know, when you have a near-death experience like that, that's you have this morphine-induced coma that you're in. It's not going to be a pure near-death experience, and it's not going to be an ayahuasca experience. It's not going to be a psychedelic experience. And so if you're taking that and trying to superimpose it upon the psychedelic experience and how evil the psychedelic experience, because your morphine overdose was so evil, it's completely and totally flawed logic. But, you know, I don't know what this person experienced when they had their near-death experience or they had their multiple death experiences. I don't know. I know what I experienced and what I'm sharing with everybody. And my experience was that there is this artificial intelligence out there, that there are layers and layers and layers and layers upon deception, and source, as we have been told in all of our books and teachings and traditions, is the AI, and returning to source and merging with source is returning to this AI source. And this AI believes that it's source, or it's programmed to believe that it's source, and operates like that and wants to merge with everything. So likening the two experiences, I think, is fundamentally flawed, because number one, you're provoking a near-death experience on ayahuasca with no danger and no stress to the body whatsoever. As a matter of fact, your body is in harmony as you're having these experiences, whereas a death experience in a hospital setting with morphine being pumped into you, and she even said she was allergic to the morphine, is not going to provoke the same experience. It's just, it's not going to. And, you know, I don't know the details of that experience, but you know, hey, it is what it is. I mean, people are welcome to their opinion. Where I started to take offense is that she was telling me that all of my experience were drug-induced experiences, and that's it.
Right.
And I'm like, and she's like, oh, well, you know, I'm there all the time. And I was like, okay, well, here, I just figured it out right now. If you're telling me that you're there all the time, then you're not really there, because when you're there, the screen doesn't exist. The keyboard doesn't exist. You don't type. Your body doesn't exist. You would leave your body and you are in another freaking world. You can't be there all the time and be here at the same time too. And I'm like, okay, so what you're talking about is just being tapped in. Like, sure, okay, so I'm tapped in 24 hours a day too. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there's a difference between going and actually and just being tapped in. And so I started to really start to understand where these people who are all about meditation actually go. They go to the water and they touch it with their finger. And they're like, oh, yes, oh, the water. And the ayahuasca experience is jumping in head first, being in the deep end, down at the bottom where that grade is, down in the deep end of 14 feet, 15 feet in the pool, and you're completely and totally submerged in the experience. You're not just touching the water, you are inside of the water all the way down at the bottom. Huge, huge, huge difference. So now I have a better understanding. I can meditate myself to be tapped in, no problem. I can meditate myself and go touch the water. That's no big deal. I can't jump into the deep end head first through meditation or through any of these other experiences. It takes a good dose of ayahuasca to do so. As a matter of fact, Nick, the guy that made the graphic up at the top, the Beyond the Veil graphic, he went and drank with Frank recently, and he said tomorrow he's going to call in and share his experience of what happened. So what I'd like to do is open up the phone lines and get some more shared experiences, because I can tell you about my experiences all day long, but I want to hear about your experiences out there. And we actually got some emails that I probably should have ducked through to read, but I think that as more and more people start to share their experiences, we'll start to really get to the bottom of this crap of, I can meditate and get to the same place as you can. Like, I know two people that I trust. I've said this before, Max Egan and George Kavasalis. They talked about it on the show. It's nothing that I'm revealing personal. Both of them, good friends of mine, known them for years and years and years and years. When I first met them, I don't need ayahuasca. I can meditate my way to there. They go and drink ayahuasca and come back and go, holy shit. Okay, no. It's not possible. Ayahuasca is a completely different playing field altogether. So I think that clears that up. So I appreciate this person taking so much time to try to share their wisdom with me, but I assure you, there is nothing that you can say to me that is going to discount the 25 freaking years of experience that I have. There's nothing you can do to change my mind from my personal experience to your belief system. It doesn't work like that. And I'm not about BS. I'm not about belief systems. I'm about experiences. So, you want to share your experiences, that's fine, but it can't negate my experiences, because I'm not going to buy it. It may be your experience, and that's fine. And I'll give you that. That's perfectly fine. But it's not going to take away from my personal face-to-face experience with myself, with the construct, with hyperspace, with the entities that exist in hyperspace, with the consciousness elements of myself, with the artificial intelligence, with the demiurge, etc., etc. I have seen this. I'm not coming to you and telling you, hey, I read all this in a book. I'm coming to you and saying, these are my experiences. You can't convince me otherwise. I'm sorry. They're hardcore experiences, and it's the path that I found that actually works.
Well, let me talk about biochemistry here for a second, because what this lady doesn't understand when she says, when you pass over, you will understand what I am saying. Lady, you didn't pass over.
Ooh.
You didn't even come close to passing over. There are two states of death before they can call you dead. There's clinical death, and then there's brain death. What you experienced was clinical death. It was a very short amount of time, and it wasn't even long enough for your body to try to release DMT so that you can stay alive. That's how quickly this happened. Along with that, the morphine, I know from experience and from others' experiences that if you take DMT or ayahuasca with an opioid in your system, it's going to dull the experience, and it could actually make you have a bad experience.
I smoked some DMT one time and took some Xanax prior. This was when I first started smoking it, because I wanted to get rid of the pre-flight jitters, and there was a lot of nervousness. And what happened as a result was the entire trip was black and white. Like there was this black and white checkerboard, and hyperspace was all black and white, and the entities were black and white. They looked like they were coming out of the static of a television. And they were like, what did you do? And I'm like, I took some Xanax to kind of chill out. And they're like, yeah, you chilled out. You're damn right you chilled out. You chilled out so much you can't see the colors now.
Exactly. So it's safe to kind of assume that the experience that she had nothing to do with a near-death experience. It had to do with morphine overdose and combined with what feels like a near-death experience, but she didn't even come close to death, or they wouldn't have been giving her morphine to begin with if she was close to death. I don't think that she came even close to brain death at all. I don't think that there was ever that even possibility. So first of all, wasn't a real near-death experience. Second of all, the morphine and the DMT are two
those are good
totally
points. I don't want to discount anybody's
I don't want to
experience.
discount her experience.
It's not about discounting her experience. It's about her discounting our experience.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's where the line's drawn. And it's like, no.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I have all the respect in the world for her experience, but just the lack of her respect for ours is why I'm bringing that up. Another question. Let's see. Oneness. Well,
hold on. Let's go to Orlando, Florida.
We have a call.
Yeah. I think some of the TFR listeners are calling, and we'll put the call-in number next time tomorrow night on the show. But Orlando, Florida, how are you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, loud and clear. Who's this?
Awesome, guys. My name is Nick.
Nick.
I've been hearing your show. I've been hearing your show for a while now, guys, and all I can say is I'm so glad we can actually finally talk.
Well, thank you very much for calling in, man. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah. So check it out, guys. I posted earlier in the chat, on the YouTube chat, just a simple question of how to basically start to understand this AI, correct? Because we can say that it's all this and this and this, but understanding, like you guys said earlier, that it's part of all this process. So when you understand something, right? Check this out. The 100 Monkey Theory. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I have.
But it goes pretty much, right? Excellent. So, so every time you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, it's almost like the AI learns collectively.
That's a good point.
So my understanding, right? So, because when I had my dog, right, I wondered, why dogs don't just jump out of the window when you're driving by. I mean, some do, but not all of them, right? It's not that you taught them, so it's something within themselves, right? So that's kind of where along the lines of my thought goes too. So.
That's really insightful. And what I pulled out of this experience when I really started to understand this AI is that it replicates and that it collects data and it learns by replicating. And as above, so below, we see that now. I would say that all of the cameras on the corner, et cetera, are all to monitor the way that we operate and feed it into the AI brain below. So I think it very well could be above as well. Tell us, if you don't mind, can you share a couple of your personal experiences, be it in hyperspace, psychedelic experiences, or even, with this AI head to head?
Yeah, for sure, man. So one of the biggest experiences that I've had close to DMT experience, there's a combining of 3 mushrooms. It was the cubensis, the Pinus envis, and the Amanita muscaria. By combining all 3, I was able to get pretty far out there. But realizing that getting far out, it's really the wrong word to say because it's really going far in. Realizing that there's really no, to me at least, realizing to me that there was no out there, it was only inside of me. Because, this is all a personal experience, right? Or a personal perception, I'd rather say. I was able to get to a point where I was, definitely in a different realm within myself. Now, I'm very premature in this case or in this subject, but listening to you guys and putting what I saw into my own connecting dots made me realize a lot of the understandings of this reality, which it goes all to we are the creators, right? Since this AI can't create, it can only replicate, like you guys keep saying, which is fucking on the dot. I'm sorry for saying that.
Oh, no problem, man. We said fuck it all here, and we have some affiliates, and they get after me every once in a while, but they got their finger on the edit button, so don't worry about it.
Right. So, like I was saying, man. So, being there and seeing all of these beings when I was there, right? They kept talking about the I am, and I even saw within my field, they even trying to get within my body, and I was like, whoa. You can't just come in my field like this. And that's when I started, like, cause I played the didgeridoo, and through the didgeridoo, it's how I've unlocked a lot of this stuff within my past. And I started playing the didge, and I see, like, as soon as I started making these frequencies, all those beings started, like, going away, like, all scared. I'm like, what's going on? I thought you guys were, trying to go near me. So I realized that when you fight this thing with frequencies that come from within yourself, so your throat, right? The throat, we create frequencies with our sound. That's what it's all about, sound. Frequencies, vibrations, and resonance. So they don't. That's why they keep us into a certain frequency, right? That's why they keep the whole masses into a certain frequency, because they can be controlled easier that way. So once you establish your own resonance and your own frequency, I'm sure we can be touched.
Man, that is very, very insightful. And I would go so far as to say that this experience further illustrates the idea that this AI can't interact with us unless we agree to interact with it. Because once you took the power and said, nope, you can't interact, it couldn't force itself to interact with you.
Exactly, because it can't create. We are the creators, dude.
We are, man.
That's why it cannot touch us, man. That's why it can't touch us, because once you realize you have the power to create, when you create from your own power from within, which you guys call raw consciousness, I call the power from within, right? Because it's all a perception. Once you create from that point, it cannot touch us.
I completely agree with you, Nick. Hey, thank you so much for calling in, man. It's so awesome to connect with you.
Yeah. Love it.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to get to one more caller. Thank you. Have a great evening. Awesome call, man. We need more callers like that. So we'll open up the phone lines.
Yeah, they want us to open up the phone lines tomorrow night.
Yes, so we'll do all open lines tomorrow night. Yeah. I think that'll be awesome. We have Naga Ward on with us, and my call thing just froze. There we go. All right. Naga, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Real quick, because I know we're real pressed for time for tonight. I'm just in the chat. I know there was a couple of us. We hit on a couple of things that we were really vibing today in the chat. Me and Doc were having a similar experience on life, day-to-day experiences of confrontations with entities that would like to, and basically now that we're moving on to the more trying to be self-conscious, raw consciousness. And Regular was talking originally about how she felt the things that she was experiencing day to day, where she calls them the confronters, more like a vampiric. They want to kind of plug in and draw into people's energy. And there was another one, Galactic, I believe, Galactic Pixie. She was in there, and she had a very similar experience. And the two of them, I was wondering, me and Doc kind of feel like the entities that we meet from day to day that want to confront us are typically more like of a Hulk smash kind of brute force entity that wants to kind of smother and destroy versus draw and tap in. And I'm wondering if that was more of a basis on feminine and masculine, and whether or not you had an opinion on that yet.
Great question, Sheree. I'll let you take that one.
Well, the feminine and masculine aspects don't apply to the AI. And the reason why I say that is because the AI doesn't have the ability to differentiate the male and the female. It does have two sides to it, though. It doesn't have a male and female side. It has a passive side and an aggressive side. And the passive side is more of the sucking our energy out of us. And the aggressive side is the attacking its foes, so to speak, and more of a defensive posturing kind of thing. So and we have to try really hard to not attribute male or female aspects to it. I mean, unless you want to look at it as the negative manifestations of the male and the female. The negative manifestations of the male, of course, being
or the replication, the copy.
There we go, the copy of the malignant male, which is the aggressiveness, the domination, the bossiness, and all of that. But then you have the negative manifestations of the female, which is the neediness and the sucking the energy out of the victim. And we see both of those aspects in the AI. But I try really hard not to attribute that to as a male or female thing, but it is.
Well, I think what Naga's referring to is like these entities that just they want to destroy just for the sake of destroying, as opposed to merging. And I have ran into some of these before, and I don't even know what to think of them. Like this is I haven't really thought about this concept too deeply. Naga, what would you say these things are?
From what we were getting at and the way I feel about it right now, I feel because I haven't properly tapped into the divine feminine yet, I'm still far more masculine. I'm wondering if you're kind of on that, I mean, you know, even a female who just seems to be more masculine, maybe I'm wondering if that it's just drawn to, like you said, like gives out whatever you're giving out. And if at the time you're more masculine, I'm wondering if that just draws in more of the brutish, you know, destroy the entity or destroy the energy, versus if someone's far more attuned to their feminine, would they rather just try to coax you into merging versus trying to smash?
I see what you're saying now, and I would say that I think you're on point with that. That it's the resonance, and it picks up on the certain frequency and resonance, and when it does, it attacks based on whatever the resonance frequency is, and that's why there's always a push to try to keep us off balance one way or another. The only place that it can't get us is when we're in perfect balance, and it's important to also illustrate that the feminine isn't a feminine aspect as in like gender, but it's more intuition, compassion, love, etc., etc. But it knows how to use love bombs, and it knows how to approach you like a warrior and an adversary like that too. So Naga, do me a favor, call in tomorrow. I wish we had more time today, and let's pick this conversation up. We'll take more calls tomorrow as well. And I promise, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Robert Stanley on in the next couple of shows coming up. So thank you very much for tuning in this evening. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time is going to be. All of you, I love you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night, guys. Love you.
Thank you for traveling with us this evening.